Good evening, everybody, and first of all, thank you all for coming. It's really nice to see the residents of Groseal so interested in an issue, and this is a big issue. Probably the biggest issue on the island is our bridges, and I mean just the two bridges. All our bridges are an issue, but certainly the Free Bridge and the Toll Bridge, which is our way on and off, are probably the things that we hear about most and most consistently from the most people. So we are historically, this is probably the first time we've had a chance to actually be on the inside instead of the outside. We've always voiced our opinion on the bridges, but never were really a player because the bridges aren't ours. They're Wayne County's, they're the bridge companies, and now we have the ability to possibly own a bridge, which would then give us the possibility to carve our own future and know that we would have what we need if the people of Groseal so desire. If they don't, then we won't. This informational meeting is the first of three. We're going to have one in September 18th, and one in October 9th. They will all be the same format, same slides, so if you go to one, you're not going to see anything really different in the other ones. They will all be televised. They will all be taped and run until the next meeting. I think that's our desire, is to run this until we have our next meeting in September. So you can see it and go over what was said. The purpose of the meeting is to give you as much information as we have on it. We're going to tell you how we got here today, what from the start to here to where we're going in the future with it. And we want the people of Groseal to have as much information as possible so that when they vote in November, they make an informed decision, whichever way they want to vote, whether it's for or against. It's informed. They know the consequences of voting for it. They know the consequences of voting against it. The meetings will all, as I said, have all the same format. We're going to start off with a slideshow of information and go through that. Hopefully that will give you a lot of information and answer a lot of your questions. After that, I'm going to ask the board members if they have anything to say, and they'll put in their 2 cents if they so desire, and then we'll open it up for questions. And it is going to be a question and answer session. We will not have the time to debate or discuss. You ask your questions, we'll give you the best answer that we have. If we don't have an answer, which I think we probably will, but if we don't, we'll be glad to take your name and number and get back to you and get you an answer for it. I just want to say, before I turn it over to Derek, that this has been going on for over a year. I got a call one day from a representative of the company who said, would Groseal be interested in buying the toll bridge? And I think back now, all I had to do was say no, hang up, and we wouldn't be here today, and there wouldn't be any controversy. But obviously, because the bridge is so important, what we had to do. I went to Derek. We talked about it. We had to, before we could even bring it to the board, look into it to see if it was even feasible. To bring it to the board to see if they wanted to do it. So that took some time. We brought it to the board, then they had to decide, do we want to go forward on it? Is it worth it? I think we all kind of know that it'd be worth controlling a bridge for the community. But so we had to do that. Once that was decided, Well, then we had to start doing our due diligence, getting our engineer, getting our financial person, getting our bonds people, our attorney. And as we delved into it, we found out we needed to go to the legislature to find out if we could own a bridge, because townships don't own bridges and roads. So we had to get special legislation. We went up to Lansing and got special legislation to allow Township to own the bridge and run it as a toll bridge. Then, culminating with August 12th, I think was our meeting when we voted on the ballot language. And the ballot language is for funding of the potential purchase and upgrade of the bridge. You, the people, will decide that. We're just giving that ability to you. We're giving that question to you. Do you want to do it or don't you? We're not here to tell you you should or you shouldn't. We're just giving you all the information we can so that you can make an informed decision. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Derek to start the slideshow.
Good evening. Once again,
I'm sorry, excuse me, I apologize. I want to do one more thing. I want to introduce up here, in case some of you don't know, the people who are here. I'm going to start down there. The gentleman sitting down there is Joe Porcerelli, one of our trustees. Next to him is Jameson Yeager, trustee. David Nadeau, our treasurer. Derek Thiel, our township manager. Carl Bletcher, trustee, and I am Jim Budney, your supervisor.
thank you. As the supervisor had mentioned, thank you to everybody for coming this evening to educate yourself with regards to the different aspects of the proposal that you'll be asked to vote on in November. Hope to only take about 20-25 minutes to go through the slideshow. And then, as the supervisor mentioned, the rest of the meeting will hopefully be a question and answer. So if anything we don't address in the slideshow, you'll have the ability to ask those questions and hopefully receive answers too. So the real basic question first to start with is why we are here. The supervisor had mentioned earlier what happened, what transpired leading us up to this point. The toll bridge company had approached us about interest, and that interest was because of the owner's interest and desire to retire. So he would like to get out of the bridge business, move on to retirement, and he approached the township because we feel his recognition of who should own the bridge and who should have control of the bridge, that recognition that the township is best suited to do that, is the reason that he came to us. Selling to a public entity is not easy. It's much easier to sell to a private entity. Public entities have certain restrictions and processes that we have to go through, and you can see that with us going to the ballot, asking for the voters to approve it, that a private entity wouldn't necessarily need to. So even though it's more difficult and time-consuming for him to sell to Groseal Township, he still has pursued that rather than a private entity up to this point. As the supervisor had mentioned earlier, what had happened or what has happened since we were approached by the bridge company, the township understood that we didn't have the internal resources to be able to do a thorough analysis of whether this made sense and whether it was a viable option or opportunity. So we contracted with a variety of different consultants, from engineers to financial analysts to financial consultants, bond attorneys, general counsel, in order to make sure that we had covered all the bases with regards to whether this was a viable operation and whether it made sense. Because if it didn't make sense, we didn't want to bring it to the voters. As a matter of fact, I think Trustee Yeager had mentioned, I think at the last meeting, that we had to do our homework to see if it actually could be done before we brought it to you. And I think that we came to the conclusion that the proposal that's been presented to you is a viable proposal. During that course of doing our due diligence, we reviewed the financial aspects of how the purchase and any upgrades, how those would be financed, as well as the operation. So we looked at three different options. The first option was to fund the operation, any capital improvements in the purchase through a tax levy only. That option presented some challenges, and a lot of it had to do with equity. Is it fair for the residents of Grosse Ile to pay for a bridge that others would use through commercial operations or non-residents? So there was a real concerning question about whether that made sense and whether that was fair to the residents. The financing of the bridge would require, for the purchase and any upgrades, would require a substantial millage to satisfy that cost on its own with just a tax millage. And the concern there was what that did to the overall tax levy within the community. Our concern was we didn't want to put forth that option and result in a substantial increase to taxes. So that was a major fault with using property taxes only to fund the operation. And all the other things associated with it. The second option was to look at utilizing tolls only. The issue with that was under that format, you would have to finance any capital cost or purchase through something called a revenue bond. Revenue bonds have a much higher interest rate potentially, and also the market for revenue bonds, when you go to the market, it's fairly small. So there was some concern of whether we'd actually be able to receive financing under the toll only option. In addition to that, according to our financial analysis, or the individuals that did our financial analysis, that option wouldn't have been viable with the things that need to be done to the bridge to upgrade it. It wasn't an option just simply because there wasn't enough revenue coming in to support all those costs. So ultimately, the last option that was reviewed and ended up being the option that's on the ballot is to utilize tolls and property taxes in combination to fund the various aspects of the bridge purchase, operation, and capital work. That provides two very complementary revenue sources. It's diversified, allows us to achieve the best rates on the bond market and the largest market on the bond rate or for the bonds. So the interest rates can have a very drastic effect on the overall cost. The difference between a percentage point can make the difference on whether this works or not. So we wanted to make sure we were getting the best interest rates for the residents. Under this format, with a portion of toll revenues coming over to support debt, we were able to get or achieve a millage rate of 1.67. That's the estimated rate that would have to be levied. And when you consider the 1.67 mills in the overall the overall millage rate for the township, it results in basically still a flat or reduced overall millage rate as compared to 2023. So if you look at the chart that was available to you when you walked through the door, and also the chart that's over on the right here, you'll see that in 2023, the millage rate at the township was right over upper end of 15 mills. We did have 3 mills that dropped off in the summer of 2024, bringing the total millage rate within the township down to 12.91 mills. With the bridge millage of 1.67 mills and 0.94 mills that are coming on for some sewer work at the wastewater treatment plant that was approved in 2022. Our total millage levy in 2025, assuming these things, would be 15.52 mills. So it's actually a half a mil less or thereabouts as compared to your 2023 levy. This millage here, the 0.94 mills, the 0.99 mills, is a judgment bond that will be coming off in 2026. So you'll see an even more of a reduction as compared to 2023 in 2026. We'll be at a total millage levy for the township's operations of 14.53 mills, which is a significant reduction from what everybody saw in 2023. So in summary, in developing this proposal, we feel that we were able to achieve a millage total that is comparable or less than what everybody experienced in 2023. So that was one of the main reasons that the tolls and property taxes was a preferable option for the financing of the things that I've mentioned previously. In addition to that, when you still charge tolls, you allow for off-island commercial or non-island residents to contribute to the overall cost versus just a millage levy as the base, which would put the burden solely on the residents of Groseal Township. So as I had mentioned earlier, the proposed levy will not increase Groseal Township millage totals above rates experienced in 2023. So what does that mean? Sure. And we might have an answer for you that's in later slides. I think we addressed that. So what does that mean for the average household? I think the average house value in Groseal is right around $396,000 per year. So utilizing the average of $400,000 retail value. So if your home is worth $400,000, your taxable value or your SEV is about half of that, or is half of that. So for a house that's valued at $400,000 with a taxable value or SEV of $200,000, a levy of 1.67 mils is about $334 for that year. Okay, a comparable home in 2024 with the reduction of the 3 mils that is shown there, that same home experienced a reduction in their taxes of about $600 in the summer of 2024. So you would have 334 coming on, you just had 600 coming off. As I mentioned earlier, with the addition of the ACO sewer work of the 0.94 mils, which was approved in 22 but isn't levied until next year, and the bridge millage, the actual total amount, adjusted amount for your taxes as compared to 23, it'd actually be $80 less than what you paid in 2023. So it's actually less than what we've paid in the past. So the ballot question, I think everybody has hopefully seen this. It's in the packet of information that was by the door. But we wanted to express to you and give you some information tonight about what was built into that ballot question, what things were considered, so that you can have confidence that the township did its due diligence in putting the package together that was presented to you that can hopefully, solve this issue or these multiple issues that we have. So the proposal considered the purchase price for the bridge, capital needs for the bridge, revenue projections for the bridge when we own it. And I know that there were some questions on Facebook about, what we plan on charging for a toll. All of our revenue projections were based off of current operations. So we are not planning on adjusting, and the finances have assumed the same rates that are currently being charged at the toll bridge. Any future projections for rate increases are based upon what the toll bridge has adjusted their rates over the period of their ownership. So we mirrored those. So we wouldn't expect that those would increase above what has been experienced on the toll bridge in their multiple years of ownership, if that makes sense. Maintenance costs have been considered, operational costs have been considered, debt service has been considered, and engineering costs associated with any capital work has been considered in the proposal. In that actual dollar amount, the $59 million, built into that is the purchase expense. So the cost to actually procure the bridge, buy it off the current owner. The necessary repairs and upgrades to the bridge to ensure reliable, so it's not just load limits, it's also reliability. Because we want to ensure that when and if the free bridge goes down, that bridge is operating without a hitch, that it's not going to go down for some sort of maintenance issue. And then significantly increased load limits over what they are currently for the next at least 30 years. Included in that $59 million is also engineering costs, which have been considered, and then bonding expense. So we do have some expense associated with the borrowing process that's been considered there as well. I would also like to say, and I don't know if we cover it in later slides, but the township also would be handling the bonding in 2 different series, so we wouldn't be having idle money sitting around that we're paying interest on. So we would only first issue the bonds for the purchase and the engineering, and then issue a second series of bonds for the actual work, for the construction that we would be doing. So you don't have that money sitting around for potentially a year you're paying interest on without actually putting it into or using it. There were some questions about alternative sources of funding. So some residents have said, well, you know, you should obtain grants to purchase and to fix up the bridge. The issue with that is the township can't pursue those grants unless we actually own the facility. So the first thing they ask on most grants is, are you owner of the facility? You know, what is your stake in the facility? If we don't own it, if we don't own the asset, it's very difficult to qualify for grants. As I think I mentioned on August 12th, the township over the past 36 months has received almost $10 million in grant funds. So I think can illustrate that we've been active with and have an interest in obtaining grants, and we have success in obtaining grants. That would be the case here. We would try to do our best to obtain alternative sources of funding to offset the cost to the residents, and we would do that immediately after obtaining ownership of the structure to try to mitigate that cost. Operational design. So Groseal Township, through this process, has looked at a variety of different methods in the way that we would oversee the bridge operation and operate the bridge. The idea that I think we've coalesced on is that it might be best to develop a bridge authority. That's a similar type organization that the Mackinac Bridge actually is the organizational structure that the Mackinac Bridge is operated through, and it operates similar to like a board of directors. So it would be set by legislation at the state that the format of the bridge authority would be this, the makeup of it would be that. So these certain individuals or disciplines would be involved, and they would have oversight of the bridge operation. And discussions to date have been about contracting with a third party to actually do the operation of the bridge. So actually the maintenance, not the maintenance, but the business activities of the bridge. The bridge authority would have oversight over that organization or that business. And that's a similar type of arrangement to what we have at the wastewater treatment plant. We've had a private party operating the wastewater treatment plant, a business, for some 40 years with very good success. I think at the township here, we understand what our limits are and what our experience is, and if there's a third party that can perform that work better than we could, we obviously want to try to take advantage of that. The costs associated with a third party operating the bridge have been considered in our pro forma and our business model, so that would be our plans moving forward as far as how that operation would occur. The bond revenue, so the $59 million that's built into the bond question, that is for capital improvements, engineering, purchase. The operational cost would come from the toll revenue. So that would be your maintenance, that would be your third-party operator, and any other costs, insurance, those type of things come from the toll revenue. So I want to touch a little bit on the why and the need of this. So we are aware that there is a substantial amount of work that has to happen on the Wayne County Bridge. There are 2 different projects that the county is planning on undertaking. One is for underwater work. The other is for above water work. Okay, the underwater work is not confirmed, hasn't been confirmed by the county that it's going to necessitate a long-term closure. I actually spoke with the county today. Their intent is to try to do that work through minor intermittent closures. They're confident that they feel that work can be done from potentially a barge. There's a lot of electrical work that's part of that. So they're trying to work around long-term closures for that first scope of work, which is the underwater stuff. The second project is related to the superstructure of the bridge. So that's your steel supports, your decking, things of that sort. That there is a greater chance of complete closure associated with that work. the expectation is there will be closures of the bridge during that work. The county has received the funding for the first project, the $20 million that was received from the state. That's for the underwater work. They have not secured funding for the second project, and that is significant because if you haven't secured the funding, you're quite a ways out from actually doing that project. So the county is a government entity. The township is a government entity. We have certain processes that we have to follow when it comes to construction work. We have to engineer the project. We have to permit the project. We have to bid the project. We have to contract the project. We have to construct the project. We have to close it out. And those take a long period of time to move through. With Grosse-Ile Township addressing the financing aspect and potentially securing the funding through the millage question in November, we are ahead of the line as far as the second round of work that the county is planning on doing. If we've secured our financing and our funding for that work, we're ahead of where they're at, which is they haven't received the funding for that. They haven't pinpointed where it's coming from. So I think we're confident that we can fit in this work before that work starts and requires a closure, and our bridge will be up and running once that bridge closes. So the estimate I think that was given in the FAQ was a 30-month estimate. I think we can probably improve on that, but that came from our engineers as far as the work that needs to be done and a realistic estimate. Once again, we would be ahead of that Wayne County work because we've moved this and we're moving on it in November. If this would have waited until May, that would have given us 36 months of lead time before the work was done, and would have put, I think, us in serious doubt as to whether we could have had that work done before the Wayne County Bridge closed. Why a need continued. There is no doubt that the bridge will be sold. The owner has indicated that they wish to retire. If Grosse-Ile Township is not the purchaser, we're confident that the bridge company will be moving on to other suitors, other private entities potentially to purchase it. A third party, a private company, can operate that bridge in the way that they see fit. They can make decisions based upon whatever they want, up to and including only financial, right? Grosse-Ile Township would operate that in a way that we made sure that the community's needs were met first, not the financial needs of a private party. So that is something I think to consider when you look at this bond initiative. The current weight restrictions of that bridge prohibit a lot of vehicles that are necessary for the day-to-day life within this community. Right now it's at 7.5 tons, which prohibits all those vehicles that you see on the chart there or on the slide. The township did contract with our engineers for an independent load rating analysis, so we didn't just take the fact that it's posted at 7.5 tons to be fact. And our load rating analysis did confirm that there would be significant problems if that was the only bridge on and off this island at the load limits that our engineering report stated. And also, I think I mentioned this on August 12th, this proposal is rooted in the residents' concern. We did do a lot of survey work associated with our master plan, and a lot of the respondents, 55%, had mentioned that access on the island is the greatest concern. Improvements that they wanted, 4 out of 10 said that we need improvements for access and we need to improve our bridges. And I don't think you need to talk to too many people in the community to realize that this bridge issue has been and continues to be a major source of anxiety within the community. It is a constant concern, and the proposal that's being brought to you in November hopes to address a lot of those issues. So with that, I'll turn over the rest of the presentation to the supervisor. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. What would the township do if approved? If we get past the November ballot and it's approved, then we can start, and Derek hit on these things, we can start with the bonding process, finalize the purchase. Right now, the seller does understand, as we're trying to negotiate a purchase price, that even though we may come to an agreement, that everything will hinge on the November ballot. Commence engineering, bid project, receive the bond revenue, commence construction and complete construction. It's they've estimated a 30-month process to take care of all that, and the actual work on the bridge is maybe a fifth of that time. All these other things that we have to do is what takes up the time. It's not as simple as going out, finding a contractor, and get to work. So a lot of time's involved. When you're dealing with the government, a lot of time's involved. There's a lot of procedures and processes that we have to go through to get to certain points that a private individual doesn't. So again, the 30-month estimate is for the total amount. That is not 30 months working on the bridge. The work being done includes the costs and components to repair and replace what needs to be done right now. The components for we want to make sure we only do this once. We don't want the people of Groseal going, oh, here's another shutdown. They got to do more work on the bridge. We want to go in, do it all at once, and have it done. And then just have a good bridge for you to use for the next 30 years. And the upgrades and improvements we're going to do, the engineers have told us they're going to last much longer than that. But we certainly want them to last as long as the bonds are out there. And then components to upgrade. Again, Derek touched on this. The most important part is to get a bridge that will take care of our community, where we can get our emergency vehicles off and on, our buses, our food, our gas, all those things, getting garbage off the island. Right now, we couldn't do any of that with that bridge, so we have to upgrade it. So that's in there. Some questions have come up about the timing of it. Why now? Why November? Why didn't we wait? Probably the biggest reason is because we've been dealing with the seller. The seller wants to sell. He doesn't want to wait around for us to take our own good time and do it on ours, which I don't blame him for that. We've been dealing over a year with him. We're to a point where we can talk to him about a purchase, and he wants to get that done. Quite frankly, with our agreements that we have, confidentiality and exclusivity agreements, that bridge might not be there for us in May or the future. So we feel we have to act now, and that's why it's going on. Another thing that came up, questions sent to us and people talking to us, were other ownership questions. Could we avoid this, the need, if the county built a new bridge? We could not. First of all, we have no control over that. Building a new bridge, just estimates, and there's no design, there's nothing on the board right now, so that new bridge would be far away. But the estimate that I talked to engineers about, if they were to replace the Free Bridge in place, exactly where it is right now, you're talking maybe 3 to 4 years of one bridge. So that it just isn't isn't good for this community. We want to give the people of Grosse Ile an option. That's what we're doing here. As I said, right now there are no plans in place. There's loose discussion with the county about a bridge in the future. So you have the old bridge. An old bridge always needs repair and maintenance, and we know that when they do that, sometimes they close it down. So there is a need for two bridges on the island, the cost of a new bridge is mind-boggling, and I'm glad we don't have to go out and look for the cost or get money for a new bridge. You see what we're asking for to repair and upgrade, which I'm glad we can upgrade. That was one of the things we stressed to the engineers when they were looking at this. What can it handle now, and what can we bring it up to for this very reason, so it could suit our community and take care of what we needed. Should Wayne County either be forced to purchase the bridge or ensure we have unrestricted access to the community while the bridge is being worked on? People, there is no way we can force the Wayne County to purchase the bridge. There is no way. We can talk to them about it. Ma'am, the state has nothing to do with it. This is Grosse Ile's issue. This is not Wayne County's issue. This is not the state's issue. It's no one else's issue but ours, and that is the tough part. Now you want to work with our people, and as we have, working with our representatives to get that $20 million that is given to Wayne County to work on we consider our bridge because we use it the most, but it's not our bridge. So there is no way we can force anyone to do anything. Wayne County has an obligation, which is good, to take care of their bridge, to repair it. They can't close their bridge down, but they can work on it and close it down to work on it whenever they want to. We don't have control over that. They don't have the funds, unfortunately, to just go in and redo everything like they'd like to, because it'd take care of a big headache for them, because every time it's closed down, they hear from us. But they just don't have those funds either. To properly prepare for the risk, Grosse Ile Township's position is to have two bridges, and I think you always need that redundancy. You never know what's going to happen. So two bridges is a must. It's the question: should we own the bridge, or do we leave it in the hands of third parties to control as they wish? So that's what we're faced with. What else do we have here? The question came up. Wait until question and answer time.
No. We're going through a lot of information here, and a lot of it's going to get lost. It could be clarified a little bit as we go.
We're almost there, Ron. We're almost there.
People don't understand out here.
Well, we'll go back.
They think the toll bridge should be given.
Ron, I understand. Ron, please.
Tolls.
Ron,
He's got to run it.
Ron,
and fix it.
Ron, we'll talk
No,
about.
I'm just
Ron, please.
All right.
One of the questions that's come up would be: would demolishing the existing bridge and building a fixed bridge option make more sense? That sounds good, but you don't know how much goes into that. First of all, we have no control over that. We don't even know. In fact, Wayne County doesn't even know if they could do that with their bridge. That's a federal government question. Waterways are governed by the federal government. They have all the say. In fact, those bridges, we get a lot of talk about opening and closing. Those bridges are for the boats. They're not for the cars, as far as the federal government is concerned. So you have to change the law. Yeah, maritime law, right? So that really is not again, demolishing the bridge and building a new one, whatever type, much more expensive than what we propose to do. And this I will say, and we know that this has come up a lot about the terminal facility at the old McLouth. There are no plans right now for anything over there. There are no plans at all, and we can't get into what ifs. There is nothing on the board, so we're all just spitballing when we start talking about these things. We'll have to deal with them if, in fact, they come up. Whether this would ever happen, we don't know. But we can't wait for 10 years and then decide on this. This is a question that's before us now. And then, can a future owner of McLouth condemn the toll bridge and take it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No individual property owner can condemn anything. The railroad has the ability. The railroad has the ability, but we talked about that right at the beginning with our attorney, and there is a huge amount of hoops that they would have to go through to do that, and literally it just couldn't be done. We're very confident that just can't be done because they wouldn't be able to, and there is a phrase in there, evidence that there is a public necessity for the taking. They'd never be able to do that. And they have, they certainly have never, they had the ability to buy it and they didn't. So never came forward with anything. As far as the taking of that bridge, we don't see it. We don't see any other ability by anybody else to take that bridge. What's the county's responsibility to maintain and operate the bridge if we own the toll bridge? Because one of the questions was, well, if we own the toll bridge, they're going to they'll just abandon their bridge. They'll say, you got your bridge, right? They can't do that. They have to keep it up by federal law. They have to keep it up, and we have talked to them. Derek mentioned we talked to them about partnering so that they're not fixing their bridge when we're fixing our bridge. If that happens, they are more than willing to work with us on that, and they have no plans of abandoning because they can't. They also, interestingly, as far as keeping up the bridge, you have to remember they're liable for that bridge. If something were to happen, they're the ones that are liable for it. So why would anybody in their right mind have something where all this traffic is going across and not have it safe? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to think that they wouldn't keep it safe. We'd like to see them do more work on it faster, but they're limited with. In fact, they have like 300 bridges to work on in Wayne County. So ours is not at the top of their list, but we've gotten them to do a whole heck of a lot over the last few years, which we're thankful for. And that will end our slideshow. Before we get to you people, I just want to ask the board if they have anything they'd like to say.
Yeah, I think. Sorry. So I'm Jameson Yeager. I'm one of the trustees. I'm also the clerk-elect. So just regarding the taxes, I know that's something people are always concerned about, right? I'm concerned about taxes. It's kind of one of the reasons I'm sitting up here today. And if we couldn't have found a way to do this without increasing the total tax burden on the residents, I would have ended up fighting it tooth and nail. But Derek's a very smart man. Dave's great with the numbers, and they managed to put together a plan that keeps the total tax burden below the 2023 levels.
But higher than the 2024. So let's be clear.
It is. Well, we're not raising taxes. We don't have the ability to do so.
Make sure you're referencing it, because you're going back 2 years and using a number.
Sure.
Today's taxes, you're gonna go up.
Correct.
Thank you.
But as I said, we're not raising taxes, right? The township board does not have the authority to levy taxes.
You are putting a proposal to the voters to raise taxes.
Yes. However, there are other means of reducing the total tax burden by not levying total taxes in other non-essential functions, right? So, which would be up to the 2024 board, not this board. But you could actually keep the tax burden at 2024 levels, depending on, obviously we still need to have police and fire and the bridge and everything else, right? But there's ways to keep the tax burden down, which I think at least is one of my priorities on the 2024 board. I know it's some of the priorities of some of the other individuals running and are likely to be elected. The other thing I wanted to point out was when was the bridge built? 1912? 1913. So in 1913, a semi-truck didn't weigh 40 tons, right? I mean, it was built as a passenger car bridge. So in order to be able to accommodate the traffic necessary to keep the island operating at the levels that we're currently at, it needs upgrades, right? That's the big thing, upgrades, not necessarily repairs. So that's the linchpin, right? Because if we just purchased it as a vehicle traffic bridge, well, you could drive to work and you could go get groceries, but we can't carry your trash out. You can't build a new home, right? There's several, we haul sludge out of the wastewater treatment plant every 2 weeks or something. So we need to be able to haul that out, right? Bring in food, bring in fuel. So the upgrade is important. And then the only other significant point I would make, and this is, I would be very concerned if Grosse Ile didn't have 2 operable bridges, just because of the reliability concerns with Wayne County Bridge. Jade and I have only been here my wife and I have only been here about a decade, but we've been through several bridge closures already, right? And I know longtime residents have been through even more, so they know how much of a significant impact that has on their lives. And with an inability to even, move equipment back and forth, would be very difficult for us and our property values. So, thanks, Jim.
Joe, do you have anything?
Yeah, just one quick thing.
We have to use the microphone so it goes on the video and the TV, so that's why we're doing that.
As Jameson stated, he's going to be here after November, and I will be the supervisor-elect right now, but probably be here after November. There's a lot of things we're already talking about, and some of the millages that you can't touch are ones that are connected to bonds. And this gentleman back there is absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct about the numbers. And what we tried to do is there's obviously some issues that come up in life where you have choices at home in everything you do, and sometimes there's not a perfect second option. So what we try to do is make it palatable enough where the numbers wouldn't increase from then, but you are absolutely correct. Now, what else increases where an individual brought up is we have this thing called inflation. We can't stop inflation from the federal government. We can't stop that. You can, but we couldn't stop it the last 4 years. And we know where inflation comes from and how they do it through the feds and what they purchase, and that's a whole other topic you can talk about. But these numbers are the numbers we came up with, still taking tolls, and also we'll be looking, the future board will be looking at the levies that we vote on each year. Because I grew up on Grosse Ile. I went through homes on Grosse Ile. I pay taxes, and I don't like paying taxes. I mean, I got to do it. I got to do it with a smile on my face, my mom used to teach me. And so now I go and I smile and pay my taxes. But the point is that we're looking at things to not make a hardship. If you look at the second or third option that this group had to look at, they're not good options. I mean, they're really not. Let's just be real. Let's just be straight here. To buy this bridge, who wants to buy a bridge? I don't want to buy a bridge. I was hoping that if I became the supervisor, everything would be perfect. Well, it's not going to be that way, and it's not going to be for my children or my children's children unless we do something about it now. So the point is, again, sir, you are 100% correct, and inflation is also going to make your taxes possibly go up too, and I can't hide behind that. I never would. But we are going to look at things, the levies, we are going to look at other issues. But this board, what they put together, and they did a really nice job, and the experts that they've got to look at this showed what it would take to run this bridge, run it with tolls, run it without. And then all of you have that option in November to vote on it. That's going to be totally up to you. But I just want you, when you go home tonight, start thinking about the options if we don't purchase it. Are we going to be in a worse position if Groseal Township doesn't own it than if we do own it? And is it the best thing in the whole world for us? Well, of course not, because we're asking you to raise 1.67 mils on your taxes. And that's... He said that, not me. I'm thinking it, but he's right. It's not good. But when you go home tonight, after you listen to the gentlemen up here too, would give their comments, and then the questions that'll be answered in this meeting, we try to come up with the alternatives, and there's some of them that are just downright terrible. And Jim is right. We have to have two bridges. You know, growing up here, I saw both bridges being hit. Once when I was a little kid, and then I forget if it was like 91 or 92. Was that it? Something like that? Yeah. I mean, I saw them both. But it's not a question of if, probably. It might be a question of when. But you can't have just one bridge on Groseal, I'm telling you. Because if we have one bridge and it goes down, no more mail. We don't even get the mail that way. There's no more gasoline. There's no more whatever. So if we can go through that, and I just want you to think about that when you go home tonight.
Thank you. One thing that wasn't mentioned is we do need two bridges, but we need two bridges that can accommodate the things that we need on a daily basis. If one goes down, we've got another one that can deliver food, gas, armored car with cash coming over to the credit union. Ambulances getting on or off the island, school buses. You know, some people say that, you know, it sounds like scare tactics, but it's a reality of life. We need those things to continue to function as a community that we have, the community that we are. And if we don't have two adequate bridges to bring us the things we want on a daily basis, then we might as well just walk away from this and keep it as a car bridge and suffer the consequences later. And the other thing I want to mention is people have said, well, we pay a lot of taxes to Wayne County. We pay the same Wayne County taxes that every community in Wayne County pays on the millage, on the Wayne County millage. And none of that goes for roads or bridges. Roads and bridges, counties get their money from the state that comes from the state, the sales tax on gas or the excise taxes on gas, and a portion of your license registration fee. And that's the source of income that the state doles out to the counties. So while because of the value of our homes here on the island, the amount of money that goes to the county from Groseal is a significant amount of money, but none of it, and if you look, it all goes for the Detroit Zoo, the Detroit Institute of Arts, all of the county, the county jail, Wayne County Community College, I believe. So we do pay taxes to the county, but none of them come back in roads and bridges. And I just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks, David. Carl?
Good evening. I want to switch gears for a moment. We've talked a lot about the presentation here and a lot of questions that you have. Tonight's going to be a long night. I'm going to be very brief. We have spent many hours putting together a program for the potential purchase of a bridge that puts us here right now. I spent approximately 10 hours on that frequently asked questions sheet that all of you have in front of you. It was in conjunction with Derek Thiel. I think Derek has done a terrific job giving us the background and pointing us all in the right direction. Derek was working on the same program as I was. We melded the two of those together, sent it to the supervisor for his input and review. It went to the treasurer for his input and review. We also sent it to our township attorney for her input and review. I don't pretend that it's simple. I don't pretend it's an easy question. I had 48 questions on the draft that I did, and I think Derek had that many and more. But none of us should pretend that that document answers every question and every one of you may have. So if you have questions tonight, or if you have questions you think of after you leave, please email the township with your questions and concerns. There's a lot of traffic that's been out on Facebook. And Facebook is something that is a possible solution for some questions where people have reviewed and understand the questions that are presented. There's also a lot of nonsense out there. So if you are going to make a knowing, intelligent vote in November, please read through the pamphlet that you have. Please think about what your future is that you want for Grozeal, and please take the time to email us so that if we have the second program as scheduled in October, and I have every reason to board in September, and then a third one in October, we can answer the questions that you may think of later on tonight when you go home. But this is not a perfect document. It's not a perfect meeting where we're going to be able to answer everybody's question and every question that may lead to another question or a third question. There have been a lot of questions out there about Port Authority and what can happen and what can't happen. There are an awful lot of legal questions that have been answered, and we want you to know what the answers are to your questions. People simply say, well, why can't you build a second bridge? A lot of money. Jim said it was, I'm going to use the term mind-bending. The numbers that I have heard are in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And Wayne County owes us the responsibility of maintaining a bridge. They don't owe you a new one. I wish they did. Wayne County is one element that we look at. We also look at the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan does not have to put in a new bridge. This is a program where we have control over our destiny. The question is, what is the best way to proceed? I don't have all of the answers. I pray to God that He has the answers. But I also look at knowing we have done the very best we can to present to you an option for the future. I don't believe that a millage is simply presented to the people for a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I think you take a question, you fairly present it to the voters, and let the voters decide. And that includes giving you the information that we have available and taking your questions and wanting to know what more you need. You may have thought of things that we haven't. So I'm looking forward to the balance of the program tonight, and I thank you for coming out and for your time.
Thanks, Carl. And now, David, if you would, Dave will be patrolling out there. Please, if you have a question, you have to speak into the mic. Okay. David, this gentleman actually was first.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much, everybody. Nice meeting all of you. All stand. My name is Frederick. I'm a fairly new resident of the island, and I was hoping to come tonight to hear about a deal and the different components of the deal and the pro forma that supports this deal. What I heard a lot are fear tactics. What I heard a lot is obfuscation by discussing mill rates as opposed to discussing the terms of the deal. It reminds me when I go to try to buy a new car or lease a new car, and the car salesperson tell me how much can you afford per month, but doesn't tell me how much I'm going to pay for the car, how much my interest rate is going to be, and what I'm going to be exposed down the road. You started the presentation by telling you that we need to have an informed decision in November. I cannot agree more. But information is predicated on transparency. And there is not sufficient transparency on this deal. This is a smoke-filled backroom deal with the smokes. We cannot move that way. I am completely okay with 2 bridges. I am potentially okay to embrace the idea that although towns in Michigan do not own bridges, we may set a precedent and own a bridge. But I am not going to write a blank check on something that can turn into a money pit without understanding all the amount of repairs, the purchase price, and the different cash flows over time. We deserve better. And I am asking, that's the question now after the long statement, I would like to ask that you give us the pro forma that you had in your slide but that you didn't share. We want to see the pro forma.
So I think that's a fair critique and a fair concern. Unfortunately, in dealing with these kind of major acquisitions, right? You sound like a businessman. So if you were selling this bridge to Grosse Ile Township, and Grosse Ile Township had come out and inspected your bridge, we knew the exact condition of it, we know how much it's worth, we know what your business plan has been for the past 50 years, we know every dollar and cent you made, and we released that publicly, right? And then that deal fell through because the voters didn't approve it in November, then I've put you at a significant disadvantage in any future negotiations with other buyers, right? So
we may also offer the best. The rebuttal to this is that we may also offer the best purchase price, and we don't know if we are. We may also offer too much for this bridge, and we don't know what the real market value of this bridge.
Well, you're right.
We as a public entity responsible to voters need to operate with transparency. This is what's predicated in government contracts to have a fair amount of transparency. We can FOIA a bunch of information. I hope people are going to FOIA all that information that's relevant and that it gets out there in the public domain. And I would hope that when you tell the buyer that you will not proceed forward without breaking the NDA. You have the right to demand this NDA to be broken, and I heard you to break this NDA.
So I think you're right. You brought up the NDA, right? And I gotta believe I'm at least. There's probably people in this room that have read my Facebook post, right? I'm a very transparent board member. I have nothing to hide. But unfortunately, the Grosse Ile Bridge Company is just not going to allow us to release every single thing about the entire history of their bridge to the public when they could still potentially negotiate with somebody else. It's just not going to be an option. What we can tell you is that the amount of money that we are going out for bond is the amount of money needed to purchase, upgrade, and repair the bridge to make it sufficient for heavy truck traffic and to serve Grosse Ile for the next 30 years. Now, whether that's worth $59 million to you or not, I don't know, right? That's your decision. But something like a bridge here on the north end, you mentioned, what's the market value of a passenger bridge, right? I mean, where do we check? Maybe we should look at Zillow or, Carfax. I mean, I don't know. It's only worth what, the money that can be extracted from it, right, to a private seller. So a private seller might buy it and be like, I can do no repairs. I can charge people $3 to cross for tolls for the next 20 years, make $20 million, walk away, let it fall into the water, right? And that would be worth it to them if they were purchasing it for less than $20 million, right? And that's just a number I threw out there. That's not, don't read between the lines there, right? So it's really only worth what you're willing to pay for it, right? So for Grosse Ile Township, it's worth what we're willing to pay for it. I mean, I'm not,
David, right behind you. She was right here. Oh, yes. Oh, this lady. Yeah.
I have two simple questions. When the Wayne County Bridge went down last time, it was over, I think, 500 days. Yeah, and they made a ton of money at the. So if that happens again, is there any guarantee that with the extra money that the township would be making, or have you built that into the millage, or that you could lower a millage in the future because you'd be making extra money during the Wayne County Bridge going down? That's number one.
Okay, and to answer that,
Okay.
just like we talked about looking for alternative funding, which would mean we could then put that in there and bring that 59 million down and not have to charge, not have to have the millage as high as that or as long as that. We'll be looking at that, but the same thing would go for tolls. If we get more in tolls, we can put that towards that debt, pay it off with that rather than having the residents pay it off.
And that would be the same thing if you did get future grant money. You could do that as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I just want to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're in the audience.
Yeah.
But I've got money.
Yeah.
When the toll, if and when it happens with the toll bridge, and it's closed during the construction or the upgrades that have to be made, obviously we won't be collecting tolls. That also has been factored into the finances and when we arrived at the total financial figures that we arrived at. So that year and a half, or 2 years, without tolls has been factored into the equation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd just like to, I appreciate what you're trying to do here, and I understand what you're trying to do, but I want to mention something. My wife worked for Ed McNamara, okay, for the counties, directly for him. That railroad, under the FRA, they can confiscate that bridge, anything within 1,000 feet, okay? And I think it's every 3 years. The reason why that crossing was dug out, because that's not a viable railroad. They disconnected it from Canadian National, okay? It's now hooked back into Canadian National, if you notice. They put the crossing back in with the gates. So you can't tell me they don't have plans for that container area, okay? Plus, you showed a picture of a container ship. They're wide. They are not narrow. If you don't think that they're going to try to confiscate their bridge is what, about 75 feet from the turnstile to the other part? So they'd probably get a 150-foot beam through there, which would accommodate a container ship. You're not going to stop commerce. If they go through there with the railroad, you're stopping a railroad and you're stopping the waterway. I think you're going to get sued over that. I hope you guys really check into that, because that is a viable railroad now. It's hooked in. And when you drive by there, which I do every day, they've cleared all the trees out. So there's a plan for that area. And it's a container port. We all know it. And the person that owns that is also the person that owned Ambassador Bridge, which a lot of that was confiscated to build the second bridge over there under the FRA, Federal Railroad Administration Act. So all I'm saying is that I'm giving you a little history, okay, why that was dug out. That stopped right away all the arguments, but you can spend millions of dollars fighting to keep that bridge down the road if they decide they want that. And you're talking billionaires. So I just hope you have your ducks in line when it comes to looking at the fact that they could confiscate that bridge. So, and that's, like I said, that's the history of it. And I know Ed McNamara took it out for that reason. So it wasn't a viable railroad. So it's hooked up, so you guys go from there. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Milo Gainer. I appreciate the informative presentation. I really do. I think you did a great job. But I want to change the subject just a little bit. I think there exists a unique opportunity right now called the Infrastructure Act. It provides $110 billion federally every year for the next 10 years. And these bridges are 150 years old and 110 years old. We really need a parallel process with our state legislatures, our federal representatives. We should get a piece of that to build a new bridge. I mean, we've paid our fair share of taxes. I've lived on the island for 30-some years. We pay our federal taxes like anybody else. We need to be doing a parallel process here that tries to fund a new bridge out of the infrastructure bill, because I agree with you. It'll be 10 years before it's built. And it probably has to be built right next to the existing bridge, which leads to a whole bunch of other hurdles too. But we really need to somehow be petitioning whatever it takes with our legislators to get a piece of that money. And that's going to be the only funding. It's not going to come from the county. They're going to replace the viaduct in Trenton over 5 live railroad tracks. Can you imagine the cost of that? That'll suck every dollar they have for improvements for the next 10 years.
Well, it will take their Act 52 money pretty much and put most of it into that one project
Exactly.
in Wayne County. Just like when they fixed our bridge, it shut down a lot of projects around the county. You're absolutely right. And in fact, I have been talking to our federal representatives, and just like grants, nothing's going to be done until you own something. That's the unfortunate thing. You can't talk about a project now unless you have something. They, for Wayne County, can't talk about getting that money unless they have a design and a project that is feasible. It can't just be talk, and it isn't, unfortunately, it just isn't, give me the money and then I'll work on it. It just doesn't work. It's an unfortunate thing, and you would actually think that's the way it should be. Let me know I have the funding. Now I can put my effort into putting something together, because it costs money to put an idea together. But that's not how they work it. But that is, I mean, we're constantly talking to them to get money anywhere we can from whatever act we can.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You know, there's never going to be another funding source.
There
like
has
that.
never been more money out there.
Correct.
Than there is right now for all types of things. Emergent, our police, our fire, our infrastructure. We've never seen anything like this.
Correct.
But there's still a lot of strings,
Yeah.
lot of strings. But we're trying.
Well, maybe it has to be like a petition drive on Grozeal or.
Sorry, I forget.
Yeah.
We're not up there. I mean, you're right. There should be a parallel process, right? But let's say I go sit in Debbie Dingell's office in D.C., right? And I'm like, hey, I need you to earmark $100 million for a Grozeal replacement bridge, where the toll bridge is. And we're talking like, these are inside the Beltway politicians, right? They're like, Jameson, you don't even own the damn bridge. How am I going to go tell Congress to give you $100 million? So we're having the conversations, but
Yeah.
nobody's going to commit to supporting us with actual budgeted funds until we have something to show for it.
I'm talking about the county bridge. I agree with-
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that
Again,
we are working the county bridge.
the federal government via taxes owes us infrastructure.
Sure.
We have a 10-year window right now, and
maybe
that'll
a
go by in
petition
the blink
might
of an
help
eye.
influence Wayne County to. I don't know how actively Wayne County is petitioning for additional funds for it. Maybe a petition might help with that, or maybe just everybody emailing Warren Evans, right? So I'm not sure on that. You could be correct.
I have emailed all of our
That,
representatives, and I thank you for your concern, and nothing more.
I will say,
Thank you.
the group that's sitting down is our representative, Wayne County, our state representatives. Everybody's at the table, so everybody is aware of what's going on. Everybody agrees. At some point, this Wayne County Bridge has to be replaced. And it's just a matter of going through all the government hoops to get there. And it's not an easy process, unfortunately. Okay. Don't, let's not.
I'd like to add one thing. What we are talking about here, respectfully for both of the gentlemen, is that something needs to be done now, because 10 years from now, we may have solutions for a parallel bridge or bridges that can then take the county bridge down. I've lived here all my life, and I am absolutely concerned about what the next 10 years brings. What we're talking about is 10 years down the road. Derek did an excellent job indicating that you have to go through a number of preliminary steps to build a bridge. The Gordie Howe was in design and engineering for the better part of a decade. We don't have a decade. We have a personal entity or a private entity that comes in here. They set the tolls. They set the rates. We have 10 years, if everything were to be in a perfect world today, 10 years for a bridge to be built. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have 10 years. You've got to figure out what to do now for the next 10 years.
Yes, sir.
Simple question. If you don't collect enough tolls, how are you going to pay the debt off, or are you going to raise the millage to cover the shortfall?
That has been figured into that. That's figured into that and to the millage.
So you're saying the 1.67 millage, you're not going to increase?
I'm not.
You are a
No,
representative, so you are the one putting it on the
don't make
table. So you are putting it on there. So
No, the based on what we have put together, it will, we can't foresee the future. We don't believe it will be. The millage wise, it shouldn't be. Tolls might go up. They might have to adjust tolls, and we've built in for increases. And our tolls on the toll bridge have not been increased all that often over the long spans of time. When you look at the history, they really haven't. We're confident that the millage will not be increased, but tolls may have to be. And I just want to add, and it wasn't really talked about, if we had gone and picked just the millage and forget tolls, this community would be paying tolls forever. Paying the millage forever. With the process that we looked at and have taken here, that millage will go away, and then it will just be tolls, and in that way the people who are using the toll bridge will be paying for the toll bridge, whether it's residents, non-residents, or whatever, just like it is now. And if you don't use it, you won't be paying for it. But with the upgrades, we had to go to the millage.
Yeah. And I just want to add one thing to that, if I can. There's probably somebody in this room that lives on Wilbur or South Point or, okay. And probably seldom, if ever, do you use the toll bridge. Okay. You might be in a category of saying, hey, I don't want to pay 3.3 mils and not charge a toll because you don't use the bridge at all. But the final design that we all came up with, the 1.67, everybody uses either the hardware store, Kroger, the gas station. So there's some shared pain so that we can continue to get the goods and services across the bridge that we need. And then the users of the bridge will continue to pay their toll, as I paid it for 40 years, so and I'll continue to pay it if that's the way I go off the island. So I just wanted to bring that up.
David,
to clarify.
when you're talking, please talk into the mic.
Yes.
Next question.
Okay. Excuse me, Will.
I'm excited.
Have been.
Good question.
It's simple. It probably plays on his question. In the bond proposal, there's 4 mills in there, 4 different numbers. Can you clarify those 4 different numbers?
Yeah, so we're required in the bond language to list the first year levy, so that's your first number, and the average levy across the life of the bond, That's your second number. The first set of numbers, so it's those two. The first set is with tolls. The second set is without tolls, considered contributing to bond debt. Okay? Does that make sense? So it's the first year in each one of those. So the 4 sets of numbers, the first one is the first year it's levied. The second number is the average over the life of the 30-year bond. And then the 2 different sets are with and without tolls.
There's one that goes all the way up to 3.
Right. So that's the average across the life of the bond if tolls are not contributing to debt. So if we didn't charge tolls.
So it was, just to show you by example, if we weren't charging tolls, that's what the millage would be.
Okay.
All right? With tolls, it's the 1.67.
So you're talking about this language here. So this is the first year of levy, which would be in 25 with tolls, and the average over the life of the bond. This one here is the first year of the levy in 25 without tolls, and the average over the life of the bond. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we've been ignored. Yeah.
Could you tell us what rate do you expect to finance this, given the current market condition, and which are pretty high right now? And what do you plan for refinancing, and therefore how can you be sure that the mill rates are going to remain constant?
I believe on the 30-year bond, it was estimated at 6%, which was conservative for municipal bonds. So I believe that was the rate that was considered. Yep. And with the Fed adjusting rates potentially down, there could be potential savings because a half a point, even a quarter point, is significant on $59 million.
Would you be able to refinance the bond?
You could. You could, yes. We can always refinance. The issue is there are costs associated with bonding. We need to make sure that the costs warrant, the savings warrant the costs associated with it.
And we refinance all the time. We constantly look at that, obviously, only when the rates go down. But yeah, we look at that all the time. That's one thing, that we would be doing. So you have to understand that this is not, boom, this is it for 30 years. We're constantly going to be looking for ways to chip away at that through grants, through just asking our representatives for money. They actually come out and ask for projects every year, and we always put in way more than we ever get back. But we're always looking for ways to cut the debt that we have. David?
Thank you. Okay. Hey, Margaret Shelton. I just want to say that I think this is a really nice PowerPoint. It's got a lot of good information in it. I looked online, I didn't see it there. I'm just hoping that either I'm missing it or if we could put it on that, that web page. I think that'd be a big help too.
We will. We didn't get it up for this.
No, that's fine.
But
we
will get that up. We did get the Q&A out there.
Okay.
But we'll get the slideshow up too.
No, that's perfect. And then the one that's not as easy, this was an easy one. I figured you guys would be putting that up there. So I saw that. So for the gentleman that said he was asking about the 1.67 and is that going to scale? I just want to make sure I'm grounding myself on this because I think I'm right, but if I'm not, I know one of you will tell me that. That 1.67 can change. It can actually slide up if for some reason, once we've done all the fixes on the toll bridge, if we were to buy it, once it's fixed, if for any reason that, let's say the bridge goes down, or let's say we just don't meet, for whatever reason, we're not making as much money as we expected in tolls that year, that can make the scale slide. Is that correct? Or
That is correct. It can slide up and it can slide down.
Right.
So if, for example, property taxes, property values increase,
Yes.
It could slide down to accommodate for proposal A.
Right.
So yes, you are correct. It can slide up and
Okay.
slide down.
Because I
The-
think that's what he was saying, and
Right.
I'm not sure that was
the
maybe it wasn't
creditors
clear.
the creditors want guarantees that the bonds will be paid, and that's the nature of an unlimited tax bond. Is there are adjustments that can be made to accommodate the debt both up and down. But as the supervisor had mentioned, all of the financial information that was reviewed and developed, I think we have a very solid picture for what that millage amount is. It had to be justified.
Yep.
And stated to you as the voters what you're going to be considering, and that has to be based upon the best information that we have, and that's what it was.
Right. I just wanted to make sure, ground myself again. It can go up and it can go down depending on.
That possibility is there. We
Right.
don't believe, based on the what we've done,
Right.
what our consultants have put forth to us, that we're confident. We're fairly confident that it won't.
Right. I just think if when you're budgeting, I'm sure you guys are really good at budgeting. I'm careful about it. So I would like to have let's pretend it might go up. I want to just be prepared for that is all. I'm just want everybody to, be on
Well,
that same
no,
page.
and we would, that's why you review everything every year.
Right.
And that would be, and we would be getting a sense during the year that something's going wrong.
Yeah.
This is going down, so this has got to go up.
But if you're on a fixed income, a lot of people are just, we have to be prepared for these things. Is all I get. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The intent, the declared intent, at least, of
Clearly.
the clerk and supervisor, and Margaret, I know you're running for trustee.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't want to raise taxes, right?
No.
So, we would find ways to de-levy, at least my intention would be to find ways to de-levy other taxes in order to be able to meet our bond obligations without increasing the total tax burden on them.
And I align with you. That would be the hope,
Right.
right? So I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think we all need to be really clear and prepared for
What?
worst case scenarios. That's
And
all I'm getting at.
Margaret, that worst case scenario would touch all our debt.
Yes.
Not just this debt and this millage, but all our debt and millages.
Right.
So it certainly, it's something that can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was a big depression or something,
Yep.
that could happen.
Right.
But we're not, that doesn't appear to be in the forecast.
Yeah, I just want to.
And if it were, we would have taken that into consideration. This is not something we're looking at for a year or two out.
Right.
We looked at.
No, but to
number of
Carl's
years.
point about Facebook, I totally align with what he said. There's a lot of misinformation, and there's some good information too, but you have to be able to pick and choose it, and that's why I just want to make sure, grounding myself and make sure at least everybody who's here and watching, we're just all getting the same information so that we're not just reading it on a random post is all I'm getting at. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Steve.
Hey, Greg.
Okay, Greg Karmazin. Could you go back to the slide where you had the implementation schedule?
The what?
The implementation schedule. Okay. All right. It's my understanding that the township's proposal is to have a private management company come in and actually operate and maintain the bridge after, if the township did acquire it. And I was just wondering, on that schedule there, when would you anticipate a private management company being solicited for operations and maintenance, and would the bridge company continue to provide operation and maintenance while you're going through any of these steps on the schedule you're showing there?
Yeah. So, effective with the passing in November is when we would start that process. When we knew that, the purchase was imminent because it was passed by the voters. So, if that answers your question, it has come up in conversations about the current bridge company staying on for operations. That is yet to be determined. I know that obviously the principal, the owner of the business, wants to be retired and be out. Whether he would be able to accommodate that, I don't know whether that's in his interest or not.
Is it? Is there any?
Greg, are you done?
Well, okay, that's so so it's to be determined is what you're basically saying.
That could be an accurate answer, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And finally, on that issue that was raised earlier about the railroad and eminent domain, have you obtained a legal opinion about that issue from your attorney?
We have, yes.
Okay, and what was the conclusion?
It was listed in the slide. That wasn't the verbatim opinion of the attorney. That's the condensed version, the summarized version. But basically, railroads do have the ability to obtain property under eminent domain, but they have to, as the supervisor had mentioned, make a case for that. And there are a variety of different components to that case that they have to make to have success in the courts for an eminent domain case like that.
All right. And did your attorney
I just want to add to that. It was also said that they have to compensate us. That is not necessarily money compensation. It could be they have it would more than likely be that they have to put a bridge for us someplace else. So that's why we don't believe in talking to our attorney that in discussing it with her that that they would have a very good chance of doing any of that. Just coming up with the reason to take it would be very, very difficult for them to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, did your attorney specifically look at the opinion or at least the affidavit that the Riverview Trenton Railroad filed in the Township's eminent domain lawsuit with the Wayne County Circuit Court? Because they testified under oath in their affidavit that there was absolutely no plan to acquire the toll bridge for operations of a shipping port. Did your attorney specifically look at that issue?
She looked at a lot of different issues. I'm pretty confident that she did look at that one as well. She did review the previous lawsuit between the Groseal Bridge Company and the Township of Groseal. There was a lot of due diligence done on her part to review a lot of the different legal conditions associated with ownership, operation, and previous experience between the Township of Groseal and the Bridge Company.
So then it'd be accurate to say that the township has no evidence that there's any ability of the railroad to have a successful eminent domain case against the township in the event the township owned the bridge, correct?
It would be irresponsible for us to, state that anybody would have no chance in the court of law, right? I mean, you don't know what the court is going to do. You don't know what a jury is going to do. I guess what we would feel comfortable stating is that the township would have a very strong case to present.
Mm-hmm.
But we couldn't say, without a doubt that they would not have success.
But my point is you're not aware of any evidence that would suggest that ability has any chance of success. All right, thank you.
And we will confirm that. No. David? Oh.
Hi, my name is Maureen Flavin. I have two questions. My first question is, all of the reports that are under the NDA, if the township were to purchase the bridge, will those be made available to the taxpayers after the purchase?
I would say, to answer that, because we do have questions of even after the purchase, what can we put out? Anything that we can put out, we will put out. And if our attorney tells us that there is something that we can't put out, then we can't do it.
I think we would all want to know what the $59 million
I'm sure everybody would like to see the financial report and the engineering report telling you what you have to fix. We understand that. Under the NDA, we cannot do that. and that's what we have to
Right,
figure out.
that was my
what
question.
we can put out and what we can't, and anything we can, we will.
I just think once the NDA is lifted, any government documents become public record, right?
Okay.
So, I know one of them's over like 1,500 pages, so I don't know about publishing it as a PDF on the website, but people certainly could FOIA it, or we could post the less boring parts, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, that was just the pictures of the bridge. It was 1,500 pages. The whole report was close to 1,800 pages. You would think, certainly I would think, once if the deal is done, it's our bridge now, and that's what went into it, and we would post that.
Okay, and then I have another question about the tolls versus the millage, right? Earlier, you had said that if the bridge was shut down for 30 months, that was built into the millage. So is that built into the 3.3 millage, or is that built into that 1.67?
It's built into the 1.67, but just
Okay.
to clarify, it's not 30 months of closure.
No. It's just
and
that,
I know
that was just the
it was stated that way.
Right.
The construction project that we would be looking at is about 8 months of closure.
No, I understand.
Okay.
I was
just wanted
just
to make sure
looking
that-
to see.
Yeah.
I understand.
The
That was
process
just an
from beginning
example.
to end, from bidding and all that sort of stuff, is estimated at 30 months.
Okay, so suffice it to say that since the pay bridge right now is just a car toll, that the 1.67 would only take into the account the car tolls as well and not truck traffic.
Correct. We
Okay,
based
all right.
our pro forma off of what the current operation is, and then
Okay.
also has considered, as you had asked, the closure of it for the work that would be necessary and included in this bond request.
So can you give an example to us of why it would then go up to 3.3?
If the bridge closed at a later date and that wasn't built into the business model, because this closure was considered.
So if it closed in 2029?
Yeah, if property values tanked or something like that, then it would potentially be adjusted. With the exception of a closure for, construction, I can't foresee, unless maybe there was an accident where it was closed. But then again, we're going to have insurance, which could potentially have, business loss, protection.
Right.
So I can't think of any off the top of my head other than potential construction down the road. But that would be hopefully anticipated in the overall business, model to account for that closure through toll revenue, putting toll revenue in the bank to accommodate those debt obligations when there was a loss of revenue. So I apologize, but yeah, that'd probably be the best example.
Okay, I was just looking for some unforeseen example or something that would cause it to get, yeah, right. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Maureen.
This gentleman here, Hello.
Hi. First, I want to thank you all for your hard work. Your dedication is extremely complex issue. Took a lot of your time, personal time.
We thank you.
Absolutely,
We thank you.
all of you. What this lady just said about insurance, a very important issue, I think. So we're considering insurance that would include coverage for business losses for the bridge. Is that correct? Is that folded into the overall cost? That is the cost of various insurances that I think we absolutely have to have.
So we've based our insurance cost projections off the current operations and insurance cost. I would assume that is the
Okay.
case. I don't have an exact answer for you. but
That
get
would
back to you on
include liability for things going wrong. Maybe more upgrades are needed for safety.
Correct.
Who knows what? Maybe for accident-related purposes. Who knows?
Correct.
Right? That would all be.
The township carries liability coverage and property coverage on all of our facilities. It would be rolled into our umbrella of our other coverages.
Right.
But like to answer your question, in summary, we've anticipated the costs associated with insurance at levels that he currently has.
Okay. Okay, so that was addressed. Other, separate question has to do with public safety, which I think is an enormously important issue for everyone sitting here, tonight. What are the plans, if there are any, of how one deals with emergencies, personal emergencies in terms of hospitalization, getting people to the hospital, getting them to care? If there is a significant fire, getting fire trucks on board onto the island, any of a number of really disastrous kinds of situations that not likely but could happen. Okay, if the county bridge is down and for whatever reason the toll bridge, should we defeat this millage, if the toll bridge is not available, what on earth is the township supposed to do, or what will it do? What can it do?
Well, that is the question. What can it do? It can't.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I think there has to be, listen, I think it has to be crystal clear to our population how important that part of it is.
And the gentleman before said he heard scare tactics. That's
not
just
clear.
the
That's
just
reality.
that unfortunately is just the facts. And we do now. When we had a house fire on Meridian this year.
Right.
Trenton came over and helped us.
Okay.
If
Good
the Parkway Bridge was down,
Yeah.
we would not be able to get any help over here. That's just a matter of fact.
Right.
So
Right.
those are the things. Those are the things that guided us towards coming here today. Is we can't afford to have that type of situation.
Course. Yeah. Of course.
So-
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, please. Okay, we'll get back to you.
What? One other thing to add,
ahead.
and once again, we don't want to be fear mongering here. We don't want to paint this horrible picture. But the township does have an emergency response plan to account for both bridges being unavailable.
What,
okay?
if I can
And-
ask what that is exactly?
Sure. And to summarize, the number one step in that plan is to get one of the bridges up and operational, because there is no other option that takes care of the traffic needs of the residents like a bridge does. There is no other option that provides the convenience and a level of or a lack of disruption that not having a bridge does for us. Basically all those options are for emergency traffic. They're not for commuter traffic. Building a bridge across, a floating bridge across, that wouldn't be accessible for the general residents to go back and forth across to their jobs. It would only be for emergencies, right?
Right.
Airlifting individuals out of the airport for medical issues. That's not to take you to your job. That's to take you to the hospital if you have an issue, right? So there is no other better option available to us other than having an operating bridge.
Yes.
And our plan indicates that, because that is the fact, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Couple of things to think about when you look at, Derek was talking about emergency vehicles, the apparatus that came over, or we just purchased for the fire department, that's going to be delivered within a couple of months, weighs 70,000 pounds. That's 35 tons. If you have an apparatus coming over from Riverview or Trenton or any of the other major mutual aid communities that have the equipment, 70,000 pounds, and currently the restrictions are 7.5 tons.
Yeah.
So you have an issue with that. If we do not make the upgrades, we do know, and I'm not a fearmonger, I'm a realist. The issue is that if we do not have the upgrades made to the toll bridge before the county bridge goes down, we're not bringing 70,000 pounds of firefighting equipment across the toll bridge.
Indeed.
One of your ambulances weighs 18,000 pounds. The bridge limit right now is 7.5 tons.
Yeah.
So now you're going to go with one ambulance that can make the crossing.
Yeah.
Makes no sense to me. I don't understand anything other than the bare math on this. 70,000 pounds. We look at the same thing for the concrete haulers. We look at the same thing for the trash haulers. Those are all above the 7.5 ton limit, way above the 7.5 ton limit. And I want to make one final comment. The gentleman had talked about when I go to buy a car, there's a number of ways of pricing a vehicle. When you want to purchase a vehicle, you can go ahead and go to Kelley Blue Book. You can go to a number of different auto dealers. You can look at the Mannheim Auto Report if you know somebody there or have access to it. Kelley Blue Book is just for used vehicles, but it also is built by, for, and on behalf of the dealers. You don't have the same considerations with a bridge. This bridge is got to be able to carry those load limits.
Yeah.
And when you suggest that we can't do this because we don't have the total picture, the total picture is pretty clear. $59 million.
Yeah.
That's what it costs. Can we give you details? God, I wished I could. I think all of us wish we could. Could tell you it's X amount of dollars for the upgrades, it's X amount of dollars for the purchase, and X amount of dollars for the operations. But we have spent an awful lot of time trying to get these numbers crunched so that they make sense, and we have confidence in those.
Right.
I happen to understand we have things like tolls out there that are going to change with private enterprise. One thing that hasn't been discussed is private enterprise does not have to upgrade that bridge.
No.
There's the thought that they could just run it into the ground. Now, I don't know if that makes economic sense, but I can tell you, my guesstimate, and I remember when the bridge went down with the first freighter crashing into it in the mid-'60s, and then I think we had the second one in 1991. Those were terrible pictures, and when I was a kid, I was scared to death to go across a toll bridge. I've seen the engineering. We have had studies.
Yeah.
This is the least worst alternative, and if somebody has a better idea, I said about an hour ago, we don't have all of the questions answered. Please come up with one thing I would like to see, and if somebody has a better idea, a better way of doing this, please present it now. Step up and say, hey, have you thought about this? Because a parallel bridge is deep, deep, deep into the millions of dollars.
Indeed.
Way beyond where we are.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you.
This is not what I said. This is not what I said, sir.
Please sit down, sir.
That by focusing on the mill rate, it's like the car salesman that's trying to get you to focus on your monthly payment as opposed to giving you the details of the deal. Do not take my words out of context to serve your purpose. I would respect that you do that. And expect.
And sir, and you're, you know, and again, if we could give you the, I know what you're asking for, and if we could give that to you, we would. And there is not. I under. No. Go ahead, Dave. Yeah, this gentleman here.
Yeah, we'll get you one.
I just had a quick question. You're talking about these freight boats that may come to McLeod property. Are they larger than the old boats that I used to unload there another lifetime ago? They're the same width?
No, because you can't. You sound like a merchant mariner. This guy, I think, probably was a merchant mariner, and he's got the right haircut. So, I mean, you guys know you can only run so big of boats in the Great Lakes, right? You're limited by the St. Lawrence, the
That's
Sioux
what
locks,
the question was.
you know.
That's my question was. Yeah.
So I don't think I don't foresee containers unless they're going to expand the St. Lawrence. I'm not sure how they do that. But
Oh, no, just a question.
Yep.
Okay. And whoever does buy that, if we don't buy it, they're still obligated, just like Wayne County's obligated to maintain it.
No.
No?
So they have a liability, right? So if it
Yeah.
falls in the water, a bunch of
Yeah.
people die, that's going to cost them a bunch of money. But they don't necessarily have to keep it operating. They could just say full throttle ahead, pay your tolls, and when it goes to hell with it, I closed it, right? The county has to maintain it.
Yeah, there's the difference between private ownership and government ownership. I think the lady in the back there is next.
Hello, my name is Deborah. I've been here for 30 years. Didn't see the first bridge, saw the second bridge. I really want to know why, strongly, because I heard from the three of you tell us that you have one contract, one idea, and one direction, and one focus, and this is the plan. This is our plan. Why aren't we going after the state? The state's got the money. We live in the state.
Ma'am, please.
Would you like to take this?
No,
Okay, but please listen. Hey, Di. Why aren't we, Wayne County, why aren't we got those news here? Why isn't some local news here to be able to speak our piece to the state, to Michigan? Wayne County's dirty. They're cleaning themselves up. We are part of the remnants of it. And we want to just keep poking Wayne County? That's what you've done. Now we're going to come up with a second plan because poking Wayne County's not done. We're buying a bridge that we shouldn't have to buy. We're paying tolls that we shouldn't have to pay. Oh my God. Are you listening to yourselves?
Ma'am,
No, there are over 40 bridge companies in Michigan, actually this local area. Did you tap into any of them to find out? I work contracts, so I usually go 3 to 5, depending on how serious it is. Where's your contracts? What have you done to say, you want to take advice? You want to do a bridge? What's your take on it? What do you want to do with it? You want to be invited too? Are you legit? MC authorities all put together? Can I talk about how we're going to make a bridge? Because we have. You're listening to the same spot.
this is for question. Thank you for your, and people, understand, whether you agree or disagree, everybody's entitled to their opinion on it. If you think this is a bad idea, you will vote a certain way on it. If you think it's a good idea, you're going to vote an opposite way. That's what your choice is. That is what your choice is. And that is what you're being given, a choice.
We have more choices?
You have a choice to vote in November. You have a choice to vote in November.
Sir, do we have more coming up? More options,
This
more
is
choices.
it. This
is it, right?
This is it. This is what is.
One fix, and let's go. And we're gonna threaten you with it.
One comment and two questions.
Yes,
Ed
go ahead.
Kosteroff. The comment is, I'm voting for this whether it's 1.67 or 5 mils. We need 2 bridges to cross this island. If in fact we don't buy it, you can bet your sweet bippy that Matty Maroon's company is going to buy it. And for all we know, he will do exactly what Mr. Budney said. He'll make some cash off of it for a while, and when it gets over the top maintenance-wise, he's going to tear it down. He don't want it if he's going to put a container port in there. My question to you gentlemen, under the NDA, can you tell us what you are proposing this bridge will be able to carry weight-wise?
Yeah, 36 ton is what we're looking at.
36 tons, 72,000 pounds.
Yes,
Thank
to
you.
upgrade it. So what we looked at was all those pictures of all those trucks that can't get through now. That's what we want to get through. So that's our upgrade, and that's all on us. That's all on us. That upgrade is so that we can get everything through to the community that it needs, whether it be emergency, whether it be food, whether it be gas, whatever. That's what we looked at in building our model.
Did you know that you should go to 80,000 instead of 77?
Yeah.
If I could just make a comment on this non-disclosure agreement. Jameson sitting next to me, there's nobody more transparent than he is, and I thought I was transparent. So I'd give away all the paperwork if I could. So what I did is I met with a young lady who's an expert. This is just how important that this non-disclosure is, so you understand this. She's an expert in products and real estate area for these NDAs. So what she told me is this. Let's just say we told you, these are just numbers I'm throwing out, please. This is nothing. The bridge is worth $100,000. It takes $200 to fix it. It takes this to do that. And we're just going to give it to you anyway. Well, if Mr. Smoke goes out and it hurts his negotiation and he proves in court that we hurt his negotiation by violating this non-disclosure agreement, then a jury or a judge can say, you're on the hook, Groziel, for $2 million because he could have got $2 million more, we believe. And so now we have to put a judgment bond on your taxes for $2 million for the next 20 years. And please, no offense, gentlemen, and me, I'm included, because I was stupid. Because I just said, you know, Mom, I'm going to tell you the whole thing. And my mom went and told everybody. Well, and now I'm sued and it cost me $2 million. Well, that's the reason. These are more important than you think. And Jim could come up with a couple of things we could tell you. We went through their attorneys to see what could we give you answers to, and they agreed. And that's a beautiful thing, because I don't want to get sued anymore. And that's just the way it's going to be. So please understand how important that agreement is. And this gentleman here, if I just real quick, you asked, do we have a plan to say both bridges went down? Derek and I wrote the emergency operations plan if both bridges go down. What's the best thing that we could have? A working bridge. Now, if both bridges went down, what would happen? A whole lot of things, and none of them are good. But we did it. It's, I don't know how many pages it is, Derek, the whole thing. And the point is that the best thing we could have was one bridge that could handle all necessities, not luxuries. I'm talking necessities. Even the mail truck, even like Jim mentioned, the gas truck. So anyway, I want more questions out there, but I wanted to explain the two things because you asked about the emergency operations plan. Absolutely, there is one. You know me coming from as the police chief, first thing I did before I even got in, I snuck in with the fire chief and started writing it, and then Derek and I got involved in it. So I'm just letting you know, I'm not going to let us fail like that. And the point is, the NDA, it's real, and it can jam you quick. It can jam you real fast. So, all right.
I had a question. Are the current owners of the toll bridge paying any property taxes to Riverview? How much is that, and what is the bridge assessed at?
Yes, they do.
In the FAQ, there is a parcel ID that's listed in there with a tax amount. I think it's $14,000 in real taxes, and then I think there's another $14,000 in personal taxes. So right around 28 total.
And what's the bridge assessed at by that Riverview is given out?
I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head because there's multiple parcels. Some that exist in Groseal and some exist in Riverview. So I'd have to get back with you on that exact.
Is the city of Groseal collecting any tax money from the bridge company?
Yes, there is property that is owned by the toll bridge company in the township of Groseal, and he does pay taxes on those.
Do you know how much we're collecting from that bridge?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
So municipalities don't pay taxes to other municipalities?
No. So if we bought the bridge, Riverview would lose their.
We wouldn't pay taxes. We wouldn't
Right.
pay to Riverview.
Yeah. So he's getting to you, Ron. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Julianne Cohn, and my family moved to Groseal when I was 3. So I've been here, I don't mind it, 75 years. Okay? I've gone through multiple closures of actually both bridges. I think we need 2 bridges. I'm not overly concerned about the cost. I'm not a millionaire, nowhere near one. But I know what we need, and we need it. That's it.
Thank you.
My name is Ron. I live on Groseal. I want to commend you guys. You put on a nice presentation. One question that might answer everything. If we didn't buy it, and a private entity or a private company bought the bridge, is there any restrictions on what they can or cannot do with that? In other words, if I had all the money in the world and I wanted to buy it and just tear it down, is there any, like the Maritime, where I suggested years ago that maybe we shouldn't swing the bridge as much as as we do? Okay, then I was told that the 14 people that have sailboats on West River couldn't get through there. Well, you know what? There's the hard part of that question and the easy part. Go around.
The answer would be swing the bridge.
Well, the answer would be swing the bridge, but for the safety of the people of the island, and that bridge goes down and the other one's down, then they're putting everybody in danger. It's just, I'm going to make a quick example. Van Horn and Allen Road. They had to do all that construction work over there so people could get to Walmart's. Well, if they didn't do that and they shut that road down, they could go down to Telegraph, up to West Road, come back. They had a second option. We don't have a second option. We really don't. But could someone privately or a business corporation, whatever, could they buy that bridge and they have the right to tear it down if they want to?
Yeah.
Now, I don't believe that we would have, because it would be against the good of the people of the island.
Right.
So,
oh no, yeah.
I mean, is there
if we
anything
bought
legal
it,
with that?
we would have to run it. If a private individual owns it, he can
do what he wants.
Shut it down.
So,
yeah, as long as he doesn't block the waterway, so he could open that bridge, swing that bridge, jump in a rowboat and go
until
home.
Groseal, hey, too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, now that is one thing that we really should consider. Is that could happen?
Well, I mean that's again.
Yeah. I'm just trying to be a little loud about it so everybody understands that.
And that is one of the things that we looked at.
That would be our plan B, which I've been asking for years and years and years. Plan B. Well, it ain't none of your business. I even got poked in the chest for that. So, but you're for sure that someone
Ron,
could buy it.
that is why one of the reasons we continued on with this project. And what we looked at is, what if we don't? Where are we at? We're at the mercy of that. And if it's a private individual, which it probably will be, I don't see any government entity stepping up to buy that bridge. We're at the mercy of whatever they want to do with it.
Yeah. Okay. An eminent domain wouldn't even be
that isn't a question there. Swinging that bridge is not eminent domain. Taking it over it is not eminent domain.
But
that's a
but
different
owning
thing.
it for commercial benefits is there's nothing to restrict it.
No.
Okay.
David.
Oh yeah, Mark's had his hand up since we started.
Mark, you're in the corner. Couldn't see you.
Okay, he just told me no. But so my question was, during the construction phase of this bridge, it's going to be down for about approximately 8 months, give or take. All right.
We're
On the
told
toll bridge.
on the long end it'd be 8.
On the long end. So we decided to move forward. We buy this thing. We're in construction. As everybody here knows, Wayne County has emergency shutdowns. You guys already talked about the contingency, and that was one of my concerns. But that floating bridge that comes in from Army Corps, is that where it comes from? Is only going to handle emergency traffic. That's correct. So
literally, people are not going to be able to drive over. You would not be driving over.
I understand that.
It
so
would be to bring.
If it just so happens you're off the island, you can't get back on. And if you're here, you're landlocked, right? But you do have life flight in place.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, you're going to get this fixed as quick as you can. And also, you mentioned earlier, Dave, I just wanted to clarify. I thought I heard you say when our bridge is open, the county bridge goes up. So we buy it, we're up and running. The county bridge goes down. They're not going to charge us tolls. There's going to be no tolls for residents going back and forth while the county bridge is down. Did I hear that correctly?
No, I don't think so. You heard it wrong. You didn't hear that. Well, and you didn't hear it from me.
That was a good try, though.
Yeah.
But I thought I heard that, and that's why I wanted to clarify.
You've got supporters out here. No, I never said that.
Something that was very close, but it didn't come out the way you were saying it.
Okay,
So
either way, there's going to be tolls no matter
There's
what.
gonna be tolls.
No matter what. Okay.
No matter what.
All right.
It's the only way the math maths.
Yeah. Right.
Wanted to clarify what I thought I heard.
Yeah.
I was telling you, if I said
Just to keep it simple.
Not my intent.
Just to keep it simple, yeah.
Mark, even if
everything.
it's closed, I see your truck coming, I'll charge you a toll just for kicks.
I'd like to just make a comment. Larry's my name, and lived on the island for about 20 years, and it looks like that we're going to have one shot at this, or it's going to go to an individual, and the company might not let us, they might not fix it, as the gentleman said, so we won't have trash or other services, but our property value, you might as well not sell your house. You won't be able to give it away if we don't have trash, services, schools. I mean, the property asset value,
county could, I mean, the township could literally go broke. And this bridge is almost a necessity. We have one shot, and I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, sir.
I just want you to clarify the Port Authority, because I don't understand why we would take on a company to run it if it's in our interest and not have some say in it. So could you clarify what they're actually going to do for the township?
So I think you're talking about like a bridge authority.
Like you said,
Yeah, it's
we
still
weren't
par-
going to manage the bridge,
It's
so
still part of the township, so it'd still be associated with the township. But
Okay.
it would have a design that would allow us to pick, like, okay, maybe we have a professional within the community that,
Okay.
has, certain qualifications. Well, we have like a member at large of the community, and then we have maybe the township supervisor. There's a design to it. It's not, outsourcing the control to a different organization.
Okay.
It's just a governmental design in order to provide more or less like a board of directors, but made up of the township, right? Does that make
Okay,
sense?
so- Yep, I
Okay.
just want to know who was going to be running that part
Sure,
of it, so.
sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the control would still stay with the township.
This comment is in regards to Wayne County's bridge. I'm sure everybody's. My question is, where are we at? Is there any kind of timeline? Are we in talks as far as continuing repairs on that bridge? I mean, there's the money set aside for one phase. Do we have any kind of time frame as when they're going to be working? To start working on that, on the bridge?
2025, is that right, Derek? 2025, they will be working on the piers, the islands, the electrical, which is a big part of it.
Because I know there was a big celebration on getting this money put aside, and
Well,
we,
and
I don't know if it's been publicly.
That's what is hard to understand. It seems like this has been going on forever.
Right.
They got the money. Why haven't they been working?
Exactly.
Because the design, the bidding, all of that takes, just like what we had up here, 30. We're assuming 30 months to do all this.
Right.
Very little, about 1/5 of it is actually working on the bridge. It just takes a lot of hoops that have to be gone through, which they are going through. So
Well,
that
I'm
they
sure they
can start-
probably have had a reset, considering the inspections weren't correct or done properly.
You're right.
So,
They're past all that.
Right.
This is just after they got through with their last working on the bridge.
Yep.
They went to this next phase, which they said they were going to do, is to looking at the piers.
Mhm.
They actually went in. Andy Kandrivas went in and said we should do this thorough inspection of it. That's why there's more structure work that's going to be done on it because of
right, because
their-
the initial
of that.
reports were
But as far
inaccurate.
yes, but as far as the rest of the piers and the work that's going to be done in 2025, that was what they said that they were going to do. But it
Okay,
takes,
so that is confirmed that they're going to start
That-
next year.
yes.
On
Yes, as far
the
as
first
we know.
phase of.
That's the plan, but until they actually finalize the engineering, they bid it out, they contract it, it could.
So
could
they
vary.
haven't done that then?
They're in engineering right now to do those repairs, but until they get a contractor on board, they procure the materials, can they fit it in the construction season? Because that's the other question, work
Right.
in Michigan only happens during the summertime on that type of work. So it's all got to line up, and I think they don't have a specific date because they don't know, because the engineering isn't complete, it hasn't been
Mm-hmm.
contracted yet. So hopefully that answers your question.
I don't know, it just seems Trenton Viaduct, they seem to get that done real quick.
That has been in the works for years. They're not getting it done real quick.
Well, so is this. This is, I think, longer than Trenton Viaduct, but, okay, well,
So,
thank
I mean,
you for.
and believe me, I know it's very hard very difficult to comprehend how long these things take, and you go, why? Why does it take that long? But it does. It's not that they're not doing anything.
Sure, sorry. I'm not trying to be long-winded or hold everybody here all night, but I think that this effort right here represents a Herculean level of effort and urgency by our township employees, like Derek from DPS. Well, he's the township manager now, and the DPS manager, and our contractors that we've used to do this. Right, like I've worked at all echelons of government, and your local government moves faster than every single other echelon I've ever seen in my life. Right, so. These other projects might take a long time, and you're like, well, 30 months, we can get a bridge repaired in 30 months. Why can't we get Wayne County Bridge repaired in 30 months? Well, because they're a bigger organization operating with more money, more responsibilities. Our focus is on one bridge, 6 miles that way. So I think it's worth noting that like the township contractors and employees have really been under the gun. We've been cracking the whip on them for a while, and they've done a really good job. So say what you want about the elected officials, right? But everybody else has really put in some work. So,
David,
I got two so far. Oh, Margaret, who's going?
So, Margaret Shelton again. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page because, I think a lot of people were talking at the same time, and I want to make sure I understand. So if, let's say, this particular vote goes on the no side, and the bridge is bought by somebody else. Now, somebody was saying that, they could tear it down. I don't think that's true, and I just want to make sure everybody gets grounded on that. I don't think that's possible. And then another, comment was, but they can let it go into disrepair. I'm sure that can happen, but at the same time, I think that legally, that's something that also could be addressed as well. They could potentially, that's an eminent domain situation waiting to happen if that were to go on. So, you guys are kind of looking at me funny like you don't know. So
actually, what would happen if it went into disrepair and became unsafe?
Yeah.
The state would shut it down for traffic.
Right.
And it would sit there until it was safe again. They would
Until they
not.
repaired
They
it.
would. What the state wouldn't do is make them repair it, but they wouldn't be able to open it up for toll traffic again until it was safe.
So you're saying they wouldn't make them do these repairs even though it's unsafe?
Not a private individual. Yes. Yes.
they might be like, hey, we own the bridge, but we're not fixing it.
Okay. So can we maybe add that to the list, and if maybe it's on there, I don't know. There are a lot of questions that are out there that maybe they seem kind of like out in space to you guys, but I get a lot of these questions. That's why I just want to make sure maybe we ground everybody on what's what.
Yeah, we'll just put down there. Let's look into that, and maybe we can put something together to make a statement that covers this type of thing.
Yeah, and then the other question was about Wayne County. So we've kind of known that. Well, I only recently found out that the toll bridge is not a transport ready bridge, right? It's commuter only. Our bridge obviously is capable of both. So I'm curious why the state and Wayne County would be allowed to leave us without any sort of support for transport. Meaning, like, that's health and welfare of 10,000 people. So I'm just curious why that's not a situation that they have to, address, and their expectation is that we would pay for that. Again, I'm not buying or selling. I'm just putting that out there as these are things that, people have asked.
So if I understood you correctly, like before when it went down,
right.
We had a lot of people say, "Why isn't Wayne County paying for our tolls?"
Yes.
There's nothing legally that they would have to. There's nothing. We in fact asked them and talked to them about it because we were having bridge meetings with them every week that bridge was down. We talked to them every week to make sure that work was being done, knowing if there were holdups or whatever. Well, one of the things that came up during that was paying for the tolls. They have no legal responsibility to do that. And they said, and of course, the actual bottom line was they just didn't have the money to do it.
Okay.
But they have no responsibility to do that.
With the paying for the tolls, but my question would be about health and welfare, right? So they would be leaving us with one bridge, which is fine for commuter traffic, but they would be leaving 10,000 people without the ability to have, basic human services. And all I'm asking is, why is that okay that they do that?
Probably the answer is that there's nothing that makes legally requires them to do that.
Yeah, I would add to. I think you're right, Margaret. There are mechanisms of government that we could use in that scenario, right? Like, if we got 10,000 people out here wallowing in trash and stumbling around the island with injuries, now we have a national level declared disaster zone. Right, but they're still not going to send out a fleet of Army helicopters and fly us all to work on.
No, but I'm saying okay, again, in advance, you're
well, I think
something.
that they're just not going to, right? Like, this is Michigan. There's tons of islands all over the place with people living on them that have one bridge or one broken bridge or no bridge or a ferry service. I mean, so I think it's just kind of like we chose to live on an island,
Yeah, that unfortunately is what you have to realize. You chose to live on an island, and these are our ways on and off. One private, one owned by the county. Greg.
Greg, Congressman. Yeah, I just want to clarify some of the cost estimates for Wayne County's investment in bridges on Grosse Ile in coming years. So when you're looking at the current repairs that are planned for the county bridge, the Parkway Bridge, the estimate, as I understand it, for the pier work is approximately $20 million, correct?
And I would say it's the piers, the out islands, for the ice, and the electrical. And the electrical.
All right, and then the steel superstructure, the bridge deck and the beams under the bridge deck, the estimated cost on that I've heard is as high as $25 million, correct?
And they do not have a solid figure yet, but I've heard that same figure. I've heard 20 to 25.
So we're talking then about an estimate of $45 million that Wayne County is going to have to spend on the Parkway Bridge within the next several years, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And in addition to the Parkway Bridge, Wayne County has responsibility for Elba Bridge and for Swan Island Bridge and for Ferry Road Bridge, correct?
Yep.
And
all the bridges,
right?
Park Lane Bridge.
And the estimated cost of fixing each of those bridges is approximately a couple $1 million?
At least.
So we're looking at another commitment of maybe $8 million by Wayne County to bridges on Grosse Ile within, coming years, let's say.
The next few years, yes.
Right. Now, when you're talking about the Parkway Bridge, as I understand, the county officials have said that the $45 million that they would invest in fixing the piers and the steel superstructure would increase or extend the service life of the Parkway Bridge by only about 15 years. That at the end of that period, replacement would be necessary because they could no longer do these incremental fixes, that a replacement would be necessary. Is that your understanding?
I have not heard the 15-year. I've heard 2025, but not 15. And I actually, in talking about lifespan, engineers are really don't like to talk about it because there's so many things that go into it that aren't going to make it necessarily that, but their guesstimate. I don't know, Derek, have you heard 15?
I haven't heard an exact length of time, but I think to your point, that bridge is going to have to be replaced sooner than later. It's not something you can continue to, fix incrementally as you termed it. I think a replacement span is your long-term solution. The existing bridge is your short-term solution.
Okay. Well, I recall that the chief bridge engineer for Michigan Department of Transportation did, at one point, I believe in 2019, make a public statement that the repairs to the bridge on the Parkway Bridge would only extend its service life by about another 10 to 15 years. And I know that Wayne County officials on multiple occasions have said that the bridge does need to be replaced. And actually, as far back as 2003, then Chief Executive Bob Ficano wrote a letter to Congress asking for funding for a replacement study, which actually was allocated. $4.2 million was allocated for a study to replace the Parkway Bridge. That study was never started, and the money apparently supposedly was reallocated towards maintenance. But in that letter to Congress, Bob Ficano wrote that the estimated cost of the Parkway Bridge replacement was $85 million. So if you adjust that for current inflation in 2024 prices, that's about $145 million.
Well, and
correct.
I believe when they were fixing this bridge, I believe the MDOT head gentleman came out with like $100 million to replace this bridge.
Okay.
And we've looked at a figure to replace the toll. What if we just replace the toll bridge?
Mm-hmm.
And it was well north of the $100 million just for the toll bridge.
Well, if we just use Bob Ficano's number, which was $85 million in 2000,
it's much more. You're absolutely right. It's much more than what
it's $145 million. So I guess the question then becomes, would it be accurate that your understanding is that Wayne County has made or is going to have to make a commitment of nearly $200 million to Grosse Isles bridges just for the Parkway Bridge and the other bridges on the island, in the next, say, 15 years to 20 years?
That'd be a very reasonable figure.
So
probably low.
So using that number, does anybody think it's realistic that the county or the state or anybody else is going to invest any money in the toll bridge if Grosse Isles residents are not willing to do so? I mean, does anybody believe that? We're 1/2 of 1% of the total population of Wayne County. And we're asking for $200 million for the Parkway Bridge and the other bridges on the island in the next, say, 15 to 20 years. Does anybody think it's realistic that the county or the state or anybody else would bail us out on the toll bridge? No. Okay.
This gentleman's been waiting to talk again. Go ahead.
But I do appreciate what you guys. I know you're stuck between a hard place and a rock, okay? Because I've been here 27 years, okay? And I know all the things that have gone back and forth with the bridges and all that. I have a friend that's an attorney in Oakland County, okay? And he's steadfast in the fact that Wayne County basically lied to us over the inspections, okay? Which is a crime, okay? Let's face it, it is, okay? And he said that he can't understand why we don't have any leverage, at least to pay our tolls from Wayne County. He says that there should be some negotiations going on between the legal entities of the county and the city to say, hey, look, we don't want to go any further with this, but at least you have to stick your hand out a little bit to help us here and there, okay? And he just can't understand why we've walked away from Wayne County like that, and that's my take. And I think that at least to pay the tolls would be a just and fair thing to do, considering what happened in the past. I mean, because you guys have made decisions over the last 10 years thinking the bridge was okay. Now we're stuck with it. basically is what, and I don't just, I mean, I live by it, so I'm going to vote for it, you know. So, you know, but I'm just saying there's a history of lying to us, and that history could be taken into legal action if it had to be, okay? I know we don't want to go that way, but we should at least be able to negotiate something out of that to give them a fair way out, okay? And if, whatever it may be. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, sir.
Tom Elvesto. Tom Elvesto. Is that working? Yeah. All right. Tom Elvesto. I'm going to ramble on a little bit here, so just bear with me. 1962, summer 1962, a tugboat pushing a barge across the Detroit River broadsided the Montrose, an ocean-going freighter, sunk right underneath the Ambassador Bridge, shut all the shipping down, essentially in the Great Lakes for a period of time until it was righted and removed. The world didn't stop. 1965, summer 1965, July, June, I forget exactly when. I was on my way home. On the approach leading up to the toll bridge, all of a sudden people started running back towards Riverview, and the freighter knocked down the bridge. All right. I had to take the long way home. 1991, it got knocked down again. I didn't see it, but I saw the results, and I was interested watching how they put a new span in place. I think that was very interesting. The toll bridge is vulnerable, based on the amount of be it ore or limestone, be it tube coal barges that were towed down to the DTE Trenton Channel plant. It's been opening and closing for a lot of years. It's a given. It's always been vulnerable to just something. Unfortunately, here there's been a lot of great statements here today. A lot of questions. I had a lot of questions of my own here, but it's brought a few other things to mind. In the operation of the bridge, I can't see. My concern would be as far as the township trying to operate a bridge. Hell, we couldn't operate a horse farm, and we brought somebody in that operates a horse farm, right? Same way with wastewater treatment. Wayne County owned the wastewater treatment plant until we bought it. I think we bought it from them.
We did.
And we now it essentially belongs to us, and we're on the hook for what, $20-some million for wastewater improvements. I get that. I mentioned this before. Schools, wastewater treatment, roads. We got $100 million in debt. I tend to have some agreement with this gentleman right here. I do feel like a salesman is selling me. He's not selling me a car. He's selling me a payment book, right? And I just kind of feel like that. When it comes down to you can't disclose the value or the value of the bridge, right? What we're trying to buy it for, but did we have it appraised? And if we had it appraised, who appraised it? I don't need. You maybe can't give me the dollar figure, but you can tell me A.B. Jones is the one that did the appraisal, and they're in line with it. At least it would make me feel more comfortable. The bar graph here that Mr. Nadu put together, it tells a story. But unfortunately, I sat in the board for 8.5 years, and I knew that every time new millages came up, that sort of thing, well, there was always a negotiation, trying to figure out when we should put this millage on the ballot, because we don't want it to conflict with this other millage. But this millage here is going to be paid off. The debt's going to be gone. So adding another 2 mills really isn't going to make it have an effect, because, well, the fact is, I mean, you can put a bar graph up. It looks good. Our millage are going to stay the same. But even though the ones that are paid off, there's always going to be a new millage to take its place.
And remember, the millages that do take its place are voted in by the people.
I get that, but there's always going to be another millage to take its place.
Absolutely, you know that. We know that.
I'm concerned about if we don't use an outside company to run the bridge, manage the bridge. Now we're going to have a bevy of new employees that is going to add to our liabilities when it comes to health and benefits and all that. So it would almost have to go to a management company. And I'm sorry, Derek, but you said something. Well, maybe there's somebody local that knows about bridges.
No, what he was talking about was the bridge authority,
Okay.
which would be overseeing that
Yeah, because
company.
I always
Yeah.
when a little red flag jumps up, I got to ask a question.
Yeah.
What's that red flag about? Is there anybody that's going to gain, in some way by the selling of the bridge if the township buys the bridge? I always, who's going to gain on the backside of this? I mean, I just can't help it. It's just a question that jumps up. Is somebody else is going to benefit off of the fact that I've got to, pay some extra dollars? Those things all bother me, and I think if you could tell me if you could have, instead of using the bar graft, and this is gloom and doom, the only thing we can do, how you intend on operating it, how much money's whatever your tolls are. If you got $1 million in tolls this year, 40% of that is going to be set aside for future maintenance. If in fact somebody from Wayne County said that the county bridge, even with all the repairs, has only got a 10 or 15-year lifespan, why do I think that the toll bridge is going to have a 30-year lifespan? It's just a question that jumps up. I got to think about it. I've got to ask. And by the way, Mr. Bletcher, the fare to Harson's Island is $12 round trip, payable when you cross over to the island, not $25, as you said a couple weeks ago. Anyways, I've been doing a lot of looking, but it's not 25, it's 12. Anyway, it is very inconvenient for those people that live on Harson's Island. Trust me.
And in fact, I had a call from a trustee of the township over there to inquire about building a bridge to get rid of the ferries.
Well, that was talked about quite, and there's been a talk about building a bridge to Sugar Island too. Yeah, that didn't fly.
And they actually had somebody that was going to build them their $60 million bridge for them. It was Manny Maroon.
Yeah, but we don't have any control of what's going to take place across the river. Unfortunately, when that land was being acquired by Crown Industries, Crown Enterprises, any thought of Groseal was ignored. So here we are. All right. My feelings is any dealings I've had in and around logistics, intermodal places, it destroys everything around it. It's burned out, abandoned homes. It's a dust bowl. So, to the people across the river, careful what you wish for. You may not like what you got, because this is going to drive a wedge between your communities. But it's off topic for it here. But what we're faced with is whether we go ahead and purchase this bridge or not. But I know you want to use the same program in September and then in October as tonight. But some of the questions about I'm going to refer to it as the mechanics, as how you intend on running this bridge. It would make me feel more comfortable moving forward.
We'll try to expand on that.
But again, I get the picture, all right? But
and these are all good questions that all of you are asking, and your comments are good questions, and we will try and tweak this presentation with that.
Yeah, if I've got to chew the sour fruit, I want to know there's a reason why. So.
All right. Thanks, Tom. This lady had a question.
Well, like what he was saying, just to say we're going to take it over, that doesn't mean you can run it. So I think there should be maybe some negotiation, and having people that are there help for a certain amount of time. That could be bargained into the price, like a lot of companies do that, so that we're not just left there to figure out how to do it. I think.
And believe me, we've looked at that. We've talked about that. We've talked about. We do think the best way to do it is just like we've done with our the sewage plant and everything, is to hire somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right.
And not take our rec guy and our airport guy and this guy and say, get down to the bridge, collect tolls. It's not going to work.
Yes, sir. I know I'm probably welcoming my, I'm actually exhausting my welcome. That's what I meant to say.
You're fine.
I just want to go back to the NDA and what it protects. I believe that NDA can be chipped at. And there are items that is being currently covered by it, that should be public for any buyer because they're going to be the same. For instance, what is the current traffic on the bridge? How much toll revenue do they get a year? That's not going to change for buyer A, B, C, or D. What is the amount of deferred maintenance that needs to be sunk into the bridge? There are some of these amounts that are completely going to be the same irrespective of the buyer that should be part of the public disclosure. And I would implore all of you to try your darn best to really chip away and figure out how much can we disclose and how much must be kept below the DN, because that's going to get in the way of the vote. I'm saying
No,
I
you're
don't want to vote
absolutely
for
right.
a blind trust. Correct? Trust is to be earned, and you earn it by being transparent as much as you can.
And sir, you've been very good in when we do talk to them, because we had to talk to them to get this document that we handed out to you today, and the questions and answers had to go through them to make sure that everything that we said in there was okay for and not against the NDA. We had told them prior to this, prior to the vote on or putting the millage language up, that we have to disclose information to the people if they are going to pass the millage to buy your bridge. This is as much as we've gotten so far. We will, after going through tonight, go back to them and say we need more. People want more, but we can only go by what they come back with. But but you're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with wanting to know what you're buying.
I did want to address one thing I think that Mr. Malvesto had mentioned, or maybe it was mentioned earlier, the valuation of the bridge. How did we come up with a purchase price? The township has a valuation on that bridge, and that valuation is based upon the business, right? The profit, the loss, as an ongoing business, what does it generate? And you can extrapolate the value of the business based upon their books, right? So we do have a value on that bridge, and and what we would be paying would be, based upon that. It's not an arbitrary number of value we pulled out of the air and said, hey, he wants this and we're okay with that, because, there has to be something that's justified, and that has been by the analysis that we've done on the business operations.
No, where's the other?
Regardless of what I want for it or what it may be on the tax rolls as, you still need an appraiser to give a value. So my question is, have we done that? Was it done on our own? Did we have an appraiser? And without a dollar figure, I'd like to know that whatever they ask, whatever the offered price is in line with the real value of in this case, the bridge.
We do have an understanding of the value of the assets, so the land, the buildings, the equipment, and also we have a value of the business's ability to generate revenue, right? So the value of the business is based upon those two different things.
Yeah, and I know this is the value of a business, not a residential house.
Right.
But
it does have
the lender,
assets, physical
the lender
assets.
wants to know that if he's giving you the money, it's really worth what you're offering.
And the consultants we hired gave us that.
I just want to be confident that
Yeah, we're confident that we have that value. Yes.
The land around it. Thank you. That McClough has contaminated for 40 years. Will we be liable for that? All the contamination that's there?
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. If this goes through, it will be based on us doing an environmental study on that to make sure as to where in fact that is. Because, and we will look at the property that we would be purchasing to see what it is. What? So you can't do it before. No, you can't do it before. You're not gonna do it before you.
So we've talked to the bridge company. We've talked to our attorney about that. The environmental assessment has been built into the schedule as part of the purchase activities that would happen if the millage is passed. So that would include all your closing stuff, your environmental assessments, your phase 1, which would, to your point, if you have a phase 1 or a phase 2 done, then you become not liable for those contaminants that existed if you've identified them prior to purchase. So, and a phase 1 will review if a phase 2 actually is necessary afterwards based upon their initial review of the environmental conditions there. So that's been worked into the process and is part of that. So your start the bonding process, finalize the purchase, that would be all part of that. Okay.
So if the proposal passes, it's not automatic that you actually buy the bridge. You want to see if the if the environmental studies and so forth pass muster, and that there aren't complications, say, with Riverview properties or whatever it might be that might arise. It's still up to you, up to the board here, to make the final decision on purchase, even if the proposal passes. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, you're right. There's still things
Right.
after
And
we
you don't have to,
after
right.
we bargain out a purchase price.
Right.
There's still these things that
Right.
have to be looked at, and if something came back that it was so horrendous,
Exactly.
and they said, "Hey, we're not going to do it," and we go, "Well, then we're not buying it."
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you don't
yeah,
have
so
to.
it's not. We're not. It's not a done.
Not a done deal.
Yeah. But in order for us to go in and negotiate, we have to be able to say we can pay you.
We can do
whatever
it
we do. That's why we have.
If it passes your qualifications.
Well, if it passes the qualifications.
Yeah, right.
And we have to know we have the money
Right.
available to pay
You've
for
got
the
some
purchase and
leverage.
pay for the.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not. If there's something wrong, there's something wrong.
Oh, that's excellent. I
Yeah.
think that's
Yes.
good to clear.
Yeah,
to
but
make
it's not. This is
clear.
not a done
Right,
deal.
right.
This is just so that we know we can go forward.
There you go.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Dave? I'm just going to stop you for saying, is there anybody else? If not, go to the lady back there. We'll get back to you. We'll get back to you.
Hi, Barbara Zonica, 37 years over here. I just want to ask, so far in your feasibility studies and your lawyers and the job that you've done so far is well presented, but what have you spent so far to put this together?
Well, we've spent. Do you have the dollar amounts?
The engineering work that we did, it was approved probably 6 months or so ago. That contract was for $300,000. We probably have upwards of $50,000 to $60,000 in legal fees associated with this. So those are our primary costs associated with it. And there's, I'm sure, some ancillary costs in addition to that. But yeah, there's a fair amount that's been spent in our due diligence to make sure that this, was viable. And more to come. Now, the authorization, the bonding does have allowances for those to-come costs. So engineering work, legal work, bonding work, all those types of things. So that has been built into the proposal moving forward. Those costs would be eligible and have been considered in that dollar amount.
And we did spend a considerable amount of money just to get to this far. But it's been money well worth it. You need to do that kind of due diligence so that so that you can put forth, we should buy this or we shouldn't, or, you decide. But if you do decide, it's worth it. There's, we try and you pay for that to try and uncover all the things that are hidden that you're not thinking about. And I guarantee you we have worked very, very hard to try and cover every aspect of this that we can to this point. Was there somebody else? Yeah. Was there somebody else? Yeah.
So I was intrigued when you discussed the environmental study. And let me place a scenario out and see how we land. The bond pass, you engage in further negotiation, you do the environmental study, it comes back, there's a bunch of dirty stuff there. And it's $10 million for remediation, or whatever it is. Or 5, whatever it is. Do you walk away from the deal? Let's assume they don't want to change their price. Do you walk away from the deal, or do you swallow the pill because you have painted us in such a dire corner that this is the only path forward? That puts us in a position that we end up with, if we carry this logic forward, we must swallow the pill and find another $5 or $10 million to do the remediation work, because you have told us that's the only path forward. And therefore, the logic would dictate that we have to do it at all cost. Are we ready to go there? Are we ready to be transparent about that with the people out there?
Where would the $5 to $10 million come from? Because
point.
you
Could
as
there
the
be another bond, another-
right, you as the voters only authorize a certain amount. It would have to come back to you for your decision.
Yeah, then we would have to go back to the mill well.
Well,
I understand. But then again, if we follow your logic, we would also have to say yes, because there's nothing that would have changed. The two bridge would be the two bridge that they are. The exposure will be the exposure you have expressed, and therefore this is putting us in an extremely weak negotiation position.
You're absolutely correct that it'd come back, and it would be. But at some point, the voters would say, no, I just can't afford this. It's just like looking at with tolls or without tolls. You'd see the big jump in millage difference. And all we can do is present it to you. That's what our job is to present it to you. It's for you to decide, the voters to decide yes or no. And you're right. We certainly don't think that that's going to be the case, but could it be? Sure, it could be.
In general, when we make the case that we are so desperately in need of this bridge, we don't enter in a strong negotiation. We don't enter with a strong position in a negotiation. We have them. They want it so bad that we're going to get everything we want.
I mean, I think that the Grosse Ile Bridge Company has come to us in good faith, right? They could have just been like, you know what, it's this amount of money, first highest bidder, it's all yours, right? Oh, to Grosse Ile Township, you can't afford it, or you didn't get here fast enough, we'll pound sand, because all I care about is making money, right? Grosse Ile Bridge Company didn't do that. They came to us. We signed an exclusivity agreement with them where only we could purchase it after a certain amount of time, assuming we maintain this NDA, right? And it's obvious you have a tremendous business acumen, but we're not a business, right? We're a township. We're a municipality. So could we, maybe hire a team of spitball lawyers just to go beat the crap out of Grosse Ile Bridge Company and save $1 million? Maybe we could, right? And maybe they might tell us to pound sand and they're to go into the private sector. So I don't think this is that kind of negotiation, right? This is, I don't know if friendlier is the right term, but it's a friendlier negotiation, right? Grosse Ile Bridge Company has served this community for over 100 years, right? And have they made money doing it? Sure. Did they provide an essential service? Absolutely, right? So I don't think we're in a position, this isn't adversarial. It's pseudo-cooperative, I guess. So I believe they're negotiating in good faith. We're negotiating in good faith. Are they trying to make a little money as they exit? Sure, right? They're not giving it away for free. But they certainly did come to, us here at Township Hall, Jim specifically, and we're like, hey, I want to get out of the game. I want you guys to take your first crack at this, which was a very kind thing to do, in my opinion. So.
This lady back here, where's David? No, David. David, you need the mic.
No, I don't.
No, you do. You have.
Okay.
That's so
Oh,
you get,
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as the pay bridge, I understand the repair work. I understand the cost. It's a separate issue than the free bridge.
Correct.
The payable bridge, Mr. Smoke, he's basically got the establishment set up. If we take it on, you had mentioned the bridge, Mackinac Bridge.
Oh,
Somebody
bridge
that's an
authority. He was talking about the bridge
individual
authority.
that would handle it, that would keep it clean. Is there a reason why, other than we've been doing it for 100 years, why we have to pay tolls to live on this island?
Because then you have to pay
Because
yeah. instead.
you're gonna either
pay what?
You're gonna either pay tolls or you're gonna pay a higher millage.
Okay.
Because the bridge isn't going to last. It needs money to maintain it, pay for its operation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a question of which way do you do it? Is it millage, all in millage, and just pay millage on a bridge forever? Or do you have tolls where you can get to a point where it's only the tolls that are paying for the bridge? And so only the people using the bridge and paying the tolls are paying for it. Oh, you always have your choice. Which bridge? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but. But
But it comes back to us. The money would come back to us.
Well, yeah. The money comes. The money goes into the bridge to keep it in good repair, so that we have the two bridges.
Correct.
Or at least our bridge.
And the millage is there to buy it, fix it, trim it, and keep it running.
No, not to actually to keep it running is the tolls. That's the purpose of the tolls. The big part of this is the upgrade it needs. That's where we got into where we couldn't just go with tolls. We had to go with a millage also.
Jim, also the cost of borrowing money.
Oh well, yeah, that all
6%.
It's all. I mean, everything gets wrapped into it. Yeah.
The 6%.
Yeah.
I just want to go back onto the state. Why isn't the local news understanding that there's a lot of professionals here who have been here for a long time, generational, who depend on the bridge? You're going 70,000, 77,000 pounds on a truck. You need to go 80. At least you could do a single axle. That way you don't have to worry about the extra 3,000 pounds. Why isn't the state taking more responsibility?
What responsibility do you think they have?
To help the people that are here on the island, especially with what Wayne County did for 10 years. If we didn't have Wayne County pooching us over 10 years, we wouldn't be here. Wayne County pooched us. And you know what? The sad thing is the inspector, if he was Mr. Bundy's name should be ripped apart in the public so that Mr. Bundy doesn't get a job. He lost his job. What a bad guy. Bad job. Bad day. The state should take responsibility, at least be involved with it, so that they can assist us, give us grants. There's grant money all over the place right now. And we're going to just take care of our own community the way we do internally. There's over 50 bridge working companies right here in not necessarily all of Michigan, but just here locally that I pulled up. 50. You haven't had more contractors come and take their own skinny on it? What you're telling us is we've got this one millage that's going to go, and if it doesn't go, this is for the free bridge. If it doesn't go, then what?
No, it's for the toll bridge.
I'm sorry, for the toll bridge. That one's going to go. We don't have an option, do we?
Not that I know of.
Because we haven't tapped into other options. We went with one idea, one direction, and one focus.
We only have
get this
only have the two bridges.
No, but they want to own it.
Right, but you don't own it to tap into anything.
We shouldn't have to own it.
I can't ask for money for something I don't know.
It's a traffic bridge.
My response
I understand,
Correct.
but why aren't we going after the state? Why aren't we getting the news, the local news
yeah,
to say,
what-
listen,
what-
this is how bad Wayne County's been, and this is what we're trying to do as far as make it right? Why is it going on our backs? This is a lot of money.
Because it's a
10,000
local
people.
issue. It's not a state issue. It's not a state issue. It's a local issue. It's our issue.
We're in Michigan. It's a Michigan issue.
No, well, okay, that's fine. But I disagree with you, and our legislatures would disagree with you. Because there is nothing for the state to get involved in. I mean, we can ask for money, which we do, but Dave over here. Ron had his hand up. And again, if there's, go ahead, Ron, make your statement. But
Okay, for about 12 years ago, I was really interested in what's going on with our bridges. Okay, that our free bridge is going to fall down, and thank God that we had a toll bridge and we sort of had a backup and this and that. How many people we got here right now? Some got frustrated and left. Everybody's sitting at home, so we got probably 9,750 people at home, and they probably can't. Is this videotape too?
Yes.
Okay.
yes, it is.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You're live
I know.
and
But what
tape.
I'm saying is, every time I went to Kroger's, I was the one. I didn't come here to beat up the township board. I brought them some information, some ideas, some things that I was thinking about, hoping that, well, yeah, you never thought of that, and you go ahead. So what was that, inspiration? You do that with your kids. Very few people got involved unless I was at Kroger's and they'd ask me, hey, where you been? I said, what do you mean? Well, we got problems out here. You quit going to the meetings. You get tired of fighting for 9,700 people when really nobody cares, and then they take a position that they're not, what was the word I'm looking for? Educated decision.
Yep.
Okay? So, I'd like to, there's times that it'd be convenient for me to go over the pay bridge, where I'm going and this and that and whatever, and I make a choice. You can't run a business without being able to pay for itself, for one thing, okay? And I don't know. I keep hearing this. And I've been asking. I've never seen a lot of you people at any of the meetings. In fact, I can't recognize anybody, to be honest with you, but my sight isn't all that good. But
And we expect you all back next week for our board meeting too.
yeah, and let's bring some. I know we got restrictions on how many people we can put in here. Then let's go to the airport hangar or something and do it. But get some people that'll ask some questions, make an educated decision on this. But you know what? It scares the hell out of me when I don't have an option B. What's our plan B? I've been asking that for a long, long time. Okay? I've been asking, what is plan B? There is no plan B. Oh, I was told that, Bailey Bridge. Yeah, well, okay, if we want to walk back and forth and
The only other thing we could do is build our own bridge.
well,
Bridge number 3.
No, I
And
realize that.
and
You try to avoid that if
if
there's
there just is. It's just not feasible. The cost is ridiculous. So this is the best option in our mind. And again, people, nobody's forcing you to do this. You're going to have the choice. If you think it is worth doing, you're going to vote one way. If you don't think it's worth doing, vote the other way. But understand the consequence of your vote. That's all.
Yeah, well, they'll be asking me at Kroger. I don't shop at Kroger's here anymore because I'm tired of people not being involved, and yet they want to voice their opinion, and their opinions aren't really in line with what's really going on.
Feels like a great last word.
Yeah. Yes. I think. Is there any other actual questions?
Should I
Okay,
be done?
then-
We'll sign out.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Oh,
I was
okay.
giving Dave a break,
Oh,
but
giving Dave a break. Yeah,
didn't do much.
yeah. No, okay, then,
Oh, these gentlemen-
I do have one.
Oh,
last
I just want to clarify
Yes.
that the higher mill, the 3.331, 3 or whatever, is that that's still for the 30-year?
Yes.
That's still for 30. Okay.
Yes.
So no tolls.
It's
no
with
tolls.
no tolls, though.
Okay, because last time we had the bridge closure, it cost me about $4,000. So $700
Yeah.
would be nothing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We all want to thank all of you for coming. Again, our next meeting will be the 18th of September, correct? I believe it's also on a Wednesday.
Next hearing.
Hearing?
Yeah, this is a public hearing right now.
No, it's an informational meeting, session, yeah. Yeah. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your comments, your questions. We don't have to all agree on everything, and that's the beauty of it. And you can vote your way. Thank you very much.